Okay, so we're live. So ETM Hotep, start things off by welcoming everyone in peace, even though we only have 1,000 people watching as soon as we go live. But ETM Hotep, welcome in peace. This is your brother Wujao Menib Eri Ma'at, and today is Friday, May 7th, 2021. And today is Friday. So as we said, we were going to do this consistently, 2 times a week. Wednesdays, we have what's called Divine Words Wednesdays, where we give a presentation and go into more detail on various different topics. We've done that for a few years actually on the channel. So if you're interested in anything that we've covered already, make sure you come back to the channel and visit the archives. We have a lot of things that we've covered in the archives, from Divine Words Wednesdays topics, which we went into the maxims of Ptah Hotep. We talked about what are some of the other things. Well, actually, let me shut my mouth and allow you all to introduce yourselves first, and then we can chat for a minute.
ETM Hotep family, welcome in peace. It's your brother June. Hope you guys enjoy the show.
Hotep, Babet E, Ren E, Imiket. My name is Imiket, and welcome.
Okay, so we have the triad here, us three for now. And so what I was saying is, in our archives, we've covered a lot of topics. We had a lot of open discussions where a lot of information and topics and information was shared, questions were answered, claims were either supported or refuted, things like that. We've had a series of shows called Welcome to the Sabite Dome, specifically geared towards addressing claims, that have been floating around on social media and so on. So we had those three types of shows. But what are some of the topics that we've covered before, if you all can remember? Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead, Sinju.
I was going to say, first off, that the Sesh Medew Netcher has never been deciphered.
Yeah, right. We definitely addressed that. We actually addressed that in a few videos, but more importantly, we addressed that in writing. That way people can really, really learn and dig in. But yeah, what else?
Yeah, we've also covered topics on primaries, what are primary sources, and then we've also had one on correct method, Tep Heseb. We've done hieratic jazz. We've done different things.
Right.
Especially all the stuff in the pseudosphere, homosexuality, and Kemet, UFOs and aliens and the glyphs.
Yep. Okay. So if you're watching, and it's your first time checking us out on the channel, then by all means, come back and visit the channel. We have a lot of videos in the archive covering many topics, as you just heard, and even more, and then we have also a whole series of Freestyle Fridays where you can actually see the process in a freestyle way, though, but a process of transliterating and translating inscriptions, Egyptian inscriptions. All right. And we refer to it as freestyle because we don't use any books. And that's what we do on Fridays, which is tonight. But tonight we're going to make a little exception. So the title of this show is Bad Character and Impediment to Learning. Now, the way I said it sounds like I'm asking a question, but I'm not asking a question. I'm not saying is bad character an impediment to learning. I'm saying the topic is, pause, bad character and impediment to learning. So bad character is an impediment to learning. So I just want to kind of discuss that tonight, and I feel it's important enough to discuss, to have a discussion about that. Now, we've covered the issue of character before years ago, and those videos are in the archive. And more specifically, when we touched on the maxims of Ptah-hotep, we went into the text of the maxims of Ptah-hotep and read a few of those maxims, but related it to the topic of having good character and what good character um, brings forth, with the benefit of having good character, and how it's required in so many things. It just makes everything a whole lot easier and more effective and efficient, in so many different areas. And so we've talked about that in the past. So I don't want to rehash all of that because we already have videos in the archive for that. But tonight I want to focus more so on an example of bad character impeding learning, and how it just diminishes the quality of learning. And so I'm going to show an example, but before I get into that, I want to say ETM Hotep again for those who may have just tuned in. And yeah, peace to you. Really appreciate. And any one of you all who may know someone who's interested in these kinds of topics, interested in what we do, make sure you share the link for us live right now, but make sure you share the link to the channel in general. All right. And then there's links in the description of our videos that you should check out. All right. Inclusive of the book that June brought up as far as the decipherment. Has the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered? A rebuttal to Professor Walter Williams. And by the way, when we address claims, we're very specific. We name names, but we don't name names for the purpose of having any adversarial, noisy conflict or anything like that. We simply name names because we want to identify who is responsible for the claim. We don't advocate the innuendos and trying to imply this or imply that, and innuendo this or innuendo that. No, we rather address the claim, but also give the author or the person behind the claim. But the focus is never on the person. All right. We don't get into people's lives and or anything like that, but we deal with the claim. And so we put the name with the claim only for that purpose. So I want to make that clear, because some people will try to instigate and you name a name and people will instigate unnecessarily, which ties into this topic, bad character as an impediment to learning. All right. So I'm going to just demonstrate a bit of that and have this discussion. But before I do that, anybody on the panel, if you have some intro words that you want to speak on this topic or anything.
I was going to say we did a show on good character before too, reading through the maxims of Ptah-hotep. So check that out. But it's very important topic right here.
Mm-hmm. And I would also like to say that from my observation is like most of these things is anybody can fall prey, because mostly it comes also from like a company. There's a type of company that when you keep, or type of energy that you have around you, then it kind of brings the worst in you, and that happens to all of us. But sometimes you have to be aware of when you say keep around you, doesn't have to be physical. It just has to be like an environment. It could be like groups, it could be all this kind of stuff, and you take on these characters of the type of approach you see people going through. And sometimes you fall prey to that. I've seen that happen a lot, like there's instigating, there's all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people also use other people, like you can see like people who don't think for themselves, because some people are really good at pushing somebody else to fight the battles for them in those instances where it's like some people you don't know how to approach somebody directly or approach a claim directly, and then they use other people and all that kind of stuff. And that's just messy, especially since everybody online is an adult. Like, you know, like, you know, if you have children, there's restrictions to what they can see and all that stuff. So we know when people, you know, interacting on Facebook are adults, and that's just, you know, weird.
Yes, indeed. All right, so I'm going to get into this. All right. Again, welcome, ETM Hotel, welcome and peace to those who tuned in. And we are the Seshu Mani Medew Netcher. You're on the Seshu Mani Medew Netcher channel. Benny Wujao and everyone else introduced themselves already. I think we have two other participants in the session. So if you all want to introduce yourself, by all means, go for it. Or maybe you are not in a place you could talk. I'll introduce you if you need me to. Because, you know, I know how it is. People work late shift or third shift. They're you know, I know people listen, but I think Chris, you there?
You, ETM Hotep. This is Sin Chris.
All right. We have Brother Kadeem. I believe Brother Kadeem's at work. So that's what you call, you know. And, you know, and it's okay, because what's funny is people will come, like, you know, when we have these open discussions, or, you know, we post a link and people come into the session to participate, you know, quite a few times people will come in and chime in at work or whatever. And I know that I've been told that it helps pass the time. So, you know, anything we could do to help you get through the shift, it's all good. All right. And then also, so I'm just gonna share a few things, but then later we just gonna talk, open the discussion, and I'm gonna post a link. So if you're in the chat right now and you have questions or any commentary on this topic or whatever, you know, really, you know, just be a little patient. I'll post a link. All right. So let's just get right into it. Okay. So again, the title of us going live is Bad Character, an Impediment to Learning. And there's no secret. I'm speaking for myself. And then anybody who thinks this way, then hey, welcome to the party. But you know, there's no secret that I do not advocate the adversarial, the oppositional, the conflict nature of engagement that we see that's prevalent in the so-called conscious community. All right. I'm not an advocate for that. I do not condone that. And in fact, not only am I not an advocate for it, I feel that it is very detrimental to the community. All right. I've made that crystal clear for years. I've been very consistent with that, you know, relentlessly. All right. So it's no secret. And I'm speaking for myself, and my behavior, actions, and how I do things reflects it on a very, very consistent basis. So, and I'm saying that because this topic is a continuation of, you know, of these observations that we see. Okay. And it's just sad to just watch this and you know, and watch how it's an impediment, as we're saying, to the learning process and to progress. Because think about this: our communities, on an intellectual and on the world stage, we are very, very far behind. We're way behind. Okay, so let's narrow it to just the topic of ancient Egypt, aka Kemet. Our communities, even our communities of scholars, we are way behind, because Egyptology, for example, started in the early 1800s. And from its start, you have several schools of Egyptology. You have the German school, the French school, the British school, the American school, which has come out of Chicago. And then you have the African school or the Ethiopian school. And out of all of that, we are behind. We're way behind. If you just look at the German School of Egyptology, for example, and the publications and the journals and the work that they've put in to the study of Egypt, Kemet, Tawi, whatever name you makes you feel better, the work that they've put in is, there's a long list, and not only a long list of work, but the way that the work is done. For example, the biggest dictionary that we have of the ancient Egyptian language is the German Wörterbuch dictionary. We just call it the Wörterbuch. That dictionary has several volumes to it, and it's all handwritten, all of it. That means that you have to draw all of the glyphs for every word and then write the definitions, the multiple sense of the definitions, and it has in there references to where you can find the word in primary text. So, for example, the word unk, they will have it listed. They will have a couple of meanings for it in the semantic scope of it. Then they'll have references where you can go find in primary text where that word is located, and so on. And the glyphs are all in there and everything. All that was handwritten. Now, that sounds tedious, but not only is it just a tedious thing to do, but imagine that you have, now, a dictionary is in some kind of sequential order. So, okay, let's just take English, for example. If you are a lexicographer and you're writing a dictionary, but you're handwriting it, and you have to write all the English words that are in the alphabet of A, the letter A. And so you're handwriting, and you have 5 pages of words that begin with A in alphabetical order, in a sequential order like they're supposed to be. But then 3 words you forgot. And the 3 words you forgot, they don't go at the end where you left off. They go somewhere within all of the words you already wrote down. Guess what? You got to start all over. Or at least from wherever the first word has to be inserted, you got to start all over, because you have to move the words down the page and so on and so forth. Because there's not going to be any room. You'll be able to tell that you just squeezed another word, in between other words. It doesn't go like that. So just imagine any mess up. By the time you get to the letter Z, and you forgot like 10 words in letter A, guess what? From letter A all the way to Z, you got to start all over. But no, not I'm exaggerating, because that's why they do it in volumes. So it's pretty much per character, per letter. But you got to start all over. So anyway, my point is just to show the effort and time and precision that these scholarly circles have dedicated to this study. And I'm just using the study of Egyptology as my example. But on the world stage, period, all the studies, we are far behind. So I say that because we don't have time to do the things that we see being done, which is all of the adversarial engagement, the conflicts, the off and on again friendship being lost and regained and stuff, people cursing each other out. It's just a ocean of bad character that is stunting our growth in intellectual progress and body of knowledge, and us adding to the body of knowledge. We have a lot of bright, capable people in our communities, but they can't even shine because the noise is too loud. And guess what? We're judged by who makes the most noise. So there are people out there that the scholastic world will look at, and if there's any nefarious agendas on their part, I'm talking about other scholarly circles, if there's any negative agendas on their part, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pick the loudest and the worst among us to represent us. It happens all the time. So they're going to find the most pseudo person, the loudest person, the most pseudo person, and make them real famous and say, see, that represents the so-called conscious community or whatever the case is. See that guy right there? He represents them. That's how they think. And that's just not a good look. So anyway, I'm just rambling on anyway. So I'm gonna go into a couple of examples. All right, but right before I do that, anybody have anything to add to what I'm saying? Or am I crazy? Like, if I'm crazy, I got tough skin. You all can tell me I'm crazy. You in the chat, just tell me I'm crazy. I could take it. If I'm the only one that sees this, then let me know, because maybe, I don't know, maybe I need help, therapy or something. If I'm the only one that sees the elephant, then maybe it's something wrong with me. But I see a big old elephant, in the room.
Nah, you're not crazy, Joe. You just
Yeah.
you just know it all. That's what people think.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna give an example. So again, I appreciate anybody tuned in. So if you be patient, I'm gonna post a link, because if you all have questions about what we're talking about or anything, because we're gonna kind of spread it into an open discussion. Ask any. Cause I see a couple of questions in the chat already. We're gonna come back to that. All right. So anyway, let me share my screen. Go right into it. Okay. So first, and I'm only gonna demonstrate with one example that's kind of connecting the dots here. All right. So, let me lock it on my screen to make sure everybody can see what's going on. 1 second here. Okay. All right. So, all right, I'm showing this post. Now, this is if you're not friends with me on Facebook or whatever case is, shoot me a friend request. I don't mind, but that's my Facebook username, Wujao Irima'at. Anyway, I'm showing this post in the Amara Squad Scholarship Facebook group. Now, I did this post. You can see the date. This is December 28th, 2015. That is 6 years ago. Okay, so 6 years ago, I did this post, and this wasn't even the first time that I posted this. But on short notice, this is what I found. So anyway, let me get over here to it. Okay, now this post is about okay, during this time there were posts in the group and elsewhere on Facebook where I saw that people were confusing the archaeological site called Nakata. All right, and if you're not familiar with that, everything that I'm saying, definitely look it up. For the sake of time, I'm not gonna look things up live on the screen. But there's an archaeological site in Egypt called Nakata. All right. And you may have heard of Nakata 1, Nakata 2, and so on. Okay. There was talks back then where there was people were confusing Nakata with what people call Nubia. All right. And so I did this post that you see on the screen to clarify that, to kind of, let everybody know what the difference is, the distinctions, and so on and so forth. So this is when I posted it, but I'm going to switch on over to my trusty whiteboard here. So this is the same post. I just wanted to show everyone when I posted it and where it's posted. But now I'm going to go to where you can see it bigger and clearer. All right. Hopefully you all can see that. Yeah. Should be able to. Okay. So, okay. So here's my point. I say, for your information, FYI, Nakata versus Nubia, pictured with this topic post, is a map showing the two distinct locations of Nakata versus Nubia. So along with this post, there was a picture, and I'm going to show it in a second. So I'm just going to read this real quick. So it says, I posted this in another group to address comments I saw where there was confusion related to Nubia versus Nakata. Please note that what is being generally called Nubia is not the same as Nakata. All right. So I'm making that distinction. I'm letting everyone know that what's being called Nubia is not the same as Nakata. And I put in parentheses Nub because you're going to find out that Nakata in ancient times was called Nub or Nubit. Today's use of the term Nubia stems from scholars overgeneralization of the people and lands that are south of ancient Kemet, and even modern Egypt. Early Egyptologists attempted to separate ancient Egypt and the ancient Egyptians from the rest of Africa and referred to people south of ancient Egypt as Negroes or blacks. Everyone knows that the word Negro is from negro, meaning black, in Romance languages. In French, Spanish, negro is the word for black, the color black. Okay. This reference changed to the use of the term Nubian. They refer to people and places such as Kush, which is Kash, which is Kush, and Ta-Nehisi, and Wawet, Iram, Ta-Seti, and Yam, and others, all under the terms Negroes, which changed to blacks and then changed to Nubian. That is a sequential order of how scholars used to describe these people in these areas. Okay. Now, this spills over still today when people refer to the 25th dynasty, and I'm sure everybody in the chat has heard this, the 25th dynasty as the Nubian dynasty or the Black Pharaohs. Matter of fact, I believe it was Time Magazine or one of those magazines. I want to say it's Time Magazine. Time Magazine or something like it it was on the front cover. It said the Black Pharaohs or the Nubian dynasties.
That was the National Geographic.
Okay, National Geographic. Okay, I knew it was one of those magazines. And so that goes on today. That wasn't too long ago. All right. But this whole concept spills over in today. Now, what that does is it triggers a racial type of thing when you say the 25th dynasty was the Black Pharaohs, because it implies that that's the only time blacks ruled or were involved with Kemet or ancient Egypt, etc. So that sparks that whole conversation, and a lot of people engage that whole conversation. Anyway, these places that I just mentioned, all these places up here that I just mentioned, fall outside of the modern borders of Egypt and would have been south, which is outside of the ancient borders of Kemet. So right now, the Arab Republic of Egypt and ancient Egypt or Kemet, they're pretty much the same in terms of borders to this very day. Now, the southern border extended down further and retracted depending on which era of time. All right. So just take a mental note of that. So here are the maps that are that I included with my post. And so here's the map of the Northeast Africa. And so you see Egypt here. Where's my trusty arrow here? All right. So you see Egypt here, which is this whole area. Then you see Sudan. And that's how it is on the map to this very day. This is a modern map. Okay. Except Sudan is split. Now you have North Sudan, South Sudan. But the southern border of Egypt is generally now around the first cataract. And throughout Kemet's history, it's pretty much been the southern border in this area. Like I said, it expanded a few times and retracted and so on. All right. But okay, so over here, I have a more close-up, zoomed in portion of this southern border. So this is Aswan within the boundary of Egypt. Then you have the first cataract, and then you have the cities below. All right. So now the names that I gave, such as, I'll go right back to it. We have Wawat, Iram, Taseti, or Yam, Ta-Nehisi, Kush, and all of those names I just mentioned would have been outside of the borders of Kemet, an exception of Taseti. All right. And we can come back to that later. All right. Kush, we know, is down here. And so what scholars have done and what a lot of people do now today is call this whole area Nubia. All right. And there is no country called Nubia. Okay, but they call this area. So now think of it this way. This area from the first cataract, second cataract, and third, this general area is called Nubia today. That's what it's like a very vague, blurry region. And it's that's what it is, a region. And it's no different than people calling this area up here the Middle East. Okay, there is no country called Middle East, but when you hear and say Middle East, you're talking about a region, just a region of territory. Okay, and so Nubia is basically a region of territory that's covering, all of these actual formal cities and so on and so forth. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right. And so I just go on to say, and I'm just going to wrap this part up. I go on to say, in contrast, Nakata was known in ancient times as Nub, gold, so named after its abundance in gold and proximity to gold mining. All right. The matter of fact, I don't even have Nakata is here. You can see it on this map here. This is Nakata. So this is well within the Kemet's border, or Egypt's border today. All right, this area here. Proximity to gold. Okay, it is also known as Ombos. So if you want to look this up, look up the word Ombos, and Ombos will it will redirect you to Nakata. In Wikipedia and encyclopedias, or whatever. This location is within the borders of modern Egypt and would also be within the ancient borders of Kemet. Because of the native name of Nub, it is assumed by some people that when speaking of Nubia, that a reference is being made to the Nakata location. All right, so you get that? Because this area or the city here was called Nub and it meant gold, because of its proximity to the gold mines and the routes, the routes in order to get to the mines. It was called Nub Town or Gold Town, Nubit. And because of that, people are assuming that when you hear Nubia and Nubians, that it's talking about these people up here. But it's not. It's talking about the people in this area here. All right. So that's the purpose of my post. And then I just go on. I often see conversations on the topic of Kush and Nubia, and they are usually in the framework of who is older, Kemet or Kush, Nubia, and or a general pitting of one against the other and arguing. Now, listen, now, mind you, I typed this 6 years ago, and this is what's going on to this very day. It sparked back up every season, like every 3 months. People argue over this. The Egyptians are not the Nubians. They're not the Kushites. Kushites are older. Egypt is a product of, is the granddaughter of Kush and Ethiopia. You get all those types of arguments going on. But I go on to say, I always encourage people to use the attested names for people and places on these and related topics. Doing so will cut down or wasted back and forth and recycled arguments. To prevent this problem, it's best for people to learn the ancient classifications and designations of human groupings and use them as such without projecting or forcing modern social constructs on them. That's very important. So, for example, and then I list them. I just list these examples. So these are the attested names of lands and people known to the Rimage. See, the Rimage is a word, a name that the ancient Egyptians called themselves. All right. A lot of people would like to use the word Kemetiu for the ancient Egyptians, but Kemetiu is a much later designated term. It's actually a demonym that they use later in Egyptians history. Remage is the more prolific name that they use for themselves. All right, the Remage. And so the ancient Egyptians were the Remage. And if we're going to call people who they are and the lands what they are, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying let Kash be what it is and let the people be who they are. Let Wawat be what it is and let the people be who they are. Let Kent Nefer be what it is and let the people be who they are. Let Majau be what it is, or Magi, Magi, as people like to pronounce it, be what it is and let the people be who they are. Let the Nahisi be what it is and let the people be who they are, and so on. So I'm not going to read them all, but that's the point. All of these attested words can be said just like we could say the word Nubian. Like there's no problem saying the word Kash. I mean, people have, teeth and tongue and we could speak. So instead of saying Nubian, we might say Kash. Instead of saying Nubian, we might as well say Wawat. Instead of Nubian, we can say Kent Nefer, Majau, Nahisi. We can pronounce these. We can say these. We can learn it. So there's no reason to be lazy and just group all these people onto these labels that are very, very confusing once you put your eyes and studies into this. So anyway, that was the point of the post, was to clarify that Nubians are not, or Nubia is not Nakata. When people speak of Nubia, they're talking about the places outside of the southern border of Kemet, all right, or at the border. Okay, so I wanted to start with that because that leads us into, let me switch back over here. That leads us into a more recent conversations, and it's got caught up into the conversations about Egyptians not being black, whether they're black, whether they're Nubians or not, and things like that. People are literally acting like they went to the moon, discovered something, brought it back to Earth, and now they're sharing something that we all should be amazed about, when all of this stuff is known. And this is an example of what I mean by we're so far behind on the world stage of scholarship across the board, but specifically on Egyptian or Egyptology. All right. People are bringing up things that are old and settled and known. Like there's so much literature, scholarly literature on stuff like this. And people bringing it up as if they've discovered something, an epiphany. It's like discovering water. It's like, man, water is everywhere. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, let me switch over to here. Okay, so now, and I'm connecting the dots here because there's a whole bunch of noise, right? But this particular post I'm sharing on the screen was posted by a sister named Maret Seger Nuit. All right. I'm familiar with that person only online throughout the years and things. I've seen that name pop up. I've engaged them before and so on and so forth. All right. And I'm just going to use this person and the comments, not the person, because I don't know this person, but the comments and the behavior to demonstrate what I mean in terms of the title of our discussion tonight: bad character as an impediment to learning. Okay, this is just one example. Okay, so this person has posted several posts across 2 different Facebook groups and several different comments within each. But I'm going to use this one as an example. So we're just going to go through this. All right, so bear with me. So this person posts a post and says, could you please tell us what these words mean in Old Nubian language? Inserted are Old Nubian letters from Qasar Ibram, which means releasing the slave. All right, and so it posted these words here, which is Noba and Nob, etc. And you can't read, these are too small to read, but that's what they posted up with their post, these pictures here. All right, so I'm going to walk through a few comments. I'm not going to read them all because as you see, there's 167 comments. Definitely not going to read all of them. Okay. So this person now, I'm skipping a lot. This person, on the reason why I showed you that first post that I did, this person is coming off that post and saying Nubia does not mean gold. And nowhere in my post do I say Nubia. In fact, I'm the one that's separating Nubia from Gold Town, Gold, Nubit, and Nakata. I actually say that in my post. But this person tags me in other posts and comments trying to tell me or argue with me that Nubia does not mean gold and so on and so forth. And I let her know that I don't make that claim, and you're arguing ghost argument. That's a classic straw man logical fallacy. When you misconstrue someone's statements or claims, and then you argue against the misconstrued version. And that's exactly what this person has done and continues to do. But anyway, let me just read through this. So this is the first comment. She says, Wujao, only you can help. Please, all-knowing one. Now, this is going to get into our topic, bad character and impediment to learning. Okay. So she has a exaggeration here. Please, all-knowing one. Now, when people say, oh, please, all-knowing one, they basically think that you think that you know everything. And that's what, obviously, this is what she's saying or thinking, that I think that I know everything. Please, all-knowing one, tell us what these words mean in Old Nubian. Then another post. Now, mind you, these are rapid fire posts. This person spams a post to death. Okay, so you can't see the minutes, but you can see 23 hours, 23 hours, 23 hours. These are rapid fire posts that if she probably triggers some spamming bot. But anyway, and then she goes on to say, not just Wujao, obviously he can't answer. Now notice that I don't even say anything, but yet she's coming to the conclusion that I can't answer. And these comments were back to back. So unless she believes that I sit at my computer all day and wait for her to type a comment for me to answer and say, oh, that's my cue, let me type my answer in. She has to believe that in order to think that I'm going to answer her between this post and this post. But yet she assumes I can't answer. And not only does she assume it, but she says it's obvious. She said, obvious I can't answer. So then she says, so I passed the question on to others of the Amara squad. Then she points out Maureen, Emiket, you are most welcome to answer. And then Emiket's like, okay, let me go ahead and answer. Let me say something here. So anyway, she says, Emiket says, stop begging me to talk to you. Stop chasing me up and down every group page to talk to you. Now the reason why these statements are made because of what I'm skipping. Like I told you, this sister Moretsuger posts in several groups, several comments, and will tag you to death. All right, in the other groups. And so that's what you're seeing Emiket is relaying. All right. So I'm gonna skip on down. Skip on down. Now watch how, look at these comments. Comment, a meme, animated GIF, emoji, another comment. So now we get to an actual comment again. Let's examine what their relationship with Kush left on the old Nubian Mahas Fadija language. And then she posts a picture here, another emoji, and then look at what she says. These Amara squad, so clever, they will be able to tell us. All right. Again, this is like this instigation type of behavior. All right. Another emoji. Such super clever people here. All right. And then, and if you hover over the emojis and stuff, you can get a very good idea of the birds of the same feather who flock together and who enable and condone this kind of engagement and behavior. And this is what I mean by enablers and bad character, because birds of a feather truly flock together. All right. So you can see who's laughing and who's, cheering this kind of stuff on. All right. But that's beside the point. Okay, so Marine says, okay, I see you have relinked me to this post. So I'll re-ask my questions here. Now, mind you, there's a parallel post in the same group on this same topic. Okay. Now, I do not understand why you're asking me what the two words mean when you have already posted screenshots in different groups of what the words mean. Here are your own screenshots. So Marine posts Moretziger's screenshots of what the word means. So she already posted what the words mean, and then ask the group, what does it mean? And then pretend like I can't answer, what Amarasqua can't answer, and so on. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm showing an example and building a case of how people have this kind of character, this like immaturity about the way that they engage people. This is not conducive for learning. All right, this is entertaining, but it's not conducive for learning. Okay, so she loves her own posts. I mean, posting of her own thing, and then she just tags Maureen again here, tags her here to post another one, which is reposting. Now, mind you, she posted all these things before, and then another one. And so this here, she says, I'm not sure if you can see it. I gotta make sure I pull up to the top so y'all can read this. She says, Marine, you know the difference between Kanuzi and Mahas Fadija? And asking the question. No response by Marine. And then but Marine actually put up other screenshots of Moretziger screenshots. So here's another one. And then Moretziger reposted again, but bigger. So you see how small that is? And then she reposted again, bigger. And then she reposted the one that Marine already posted again. So mind you, this is like the 7th time that this has been posted. All right. So Marine comes back and says, another one of your screenshots. So Marine is posting 3 screenshots where this person has already posted several times. And so the point Marine is making is that you've already posted these things, and you're asking and you're begging and you're tagging people in the post to answer a question that you've already posted several times. What's up with that? All right. I mean, that's the whole point. So then she goes on. This is Moretziger again. Maureen, modern attestation from Dungalawi lexicon. And so she posts this again. This right here is the same as this right here, and is the same as what Marine posts right here. So just in one scroll length of the page, you see that same post 3 times. All right. And again, I'm showing this because this is a common practice on social media now, in these kinds of environments, in these kinds of discussions. And this is not conducive for learning. All right. Now, so Marine asked a very good question, but let me see if I can. I'm not sure if this is going to show wide enough, but because I know this is too small on the screen. Let me just see if I can blow this up. Give me 1 second here. I'll blow it up so everyone can see it, because I want to read it. I want everybody to read it. Maybe a little blurry, but I want everybody to read it. Okay. So you all should be able to see it. Anybody on the panel, if you could let me know that if it's big enough. Maybe a bit blurry.
It's
No,
good.
I can see it.
Okay. Hope everybody in the chat still following, still with me. All right. So let me get back my cursor back over there. Okay. Now I can't even read it. Okay, so this is what this sister is posting up. She is repeatedly saying the word Nubia derives from Meroitic, Meroitic, Nob or Noba, Nuba. Okay, that's usually pronounced Nuba. Mukhtar Khalil in his Nabin dictionary translates Nub or Nob as slave, peasant, Nubian. And in Al Mekvist Nubian dictionary, it translates as peasant, man of lower origin, upstart, slave. Meroitic has a tendency to switch the G to B after a rounded vowel. Proto-Northern Eastern Sudanic gu becomes in Meroitic ba written B. So this we get Nuba. Okay. The Meroitic Nuba equals the Proto-Nubian Nogu or Nugu and means slave. It is attested in modern forms such as the Dangalawi, Nugud, feminine, Nugu, Kordofan, Nubian, Karko dialect, etc., etc. But the point here is that her stance is that the word Nubia and Nubian means slave. Okay, that's her whole point. Now, why is she making this point? Like I said, I'm skipping a lot of the dialogue for sake of time, but I'm sure if you all if you all have been on social media, been in the YouTube streets and stuff, you've seen the arguments about slavery in Egypt. Slavery in Egypt. This is where this is coming out of. So it's been a convergence, a convergence of the noisy topics that people are arguing about, whether slavery happened in Egypt or not, whether it's can be defined as chattel slavery, debt slavery, so on and so forth. And prior to that, it was East Africa versus West Africa, how African Americans are not East Africans, we're really West Africans and this and that. So you see how all these different topics bleed into each other, all noise, and very, very little learning is coming out of it. The potential is just dropped with this kind of behavior. So let me just continue. Give me a second. Let me shrink this back down here. If I can. Okay. So let me just keep going real quick. Okay, so that's this person's point. All right. So this sparks Emiket to ask her, do you agree with your screenshots that the word Nubian means slave? And so she answers yes. All right. So I want y'all to pay attention. She says, yes, I do. Okay. So she's committed to the fact that Nubia and Nubian means slave. All right. Now it goes on, and she asks Emiket, what do you say? And so Emiket asks for clarification. And she says, I want to make sure I understand you correctly. Are you saying that a population of people proudly name themselves a word that means slaves? Now I hope everybody sees the importance of that question, because it's one thing for a word to mean slave or slaves, but then it's a whole nother thing for the people to name themselves that word and mean slaves. Like they're proudly calling themselves slaves. Okay, so that's the purpose of this question, is to make sure, okay, wait a minute, are you saying that? And she answers what? Can y'all see it on the panel? I don't want to be the only one talking. What is Meretziger answer to that question? What was her answer?
Yes. She answered yes.
She said yes. So this person right here, This sister right here believes that the people that are called Nubians on their own call themselves slaves. So much so that they name themselves slaves. That's what she believes. Okay. And then she goes on to say and asks Emiket, do you have another translation? And then I guess Emiket took too long between these two posts. She tags her again, ask her the same question, and then posts again. And mind you, these are rapid fire comments here. So I don't, this person thinks that people live online or something, but she posts something else. So then she posts this here. And let me click on it, see what will happen. Let me just open in a separate link here. Okay. So, and I know you all can't see that. All right. Yeah, that's gonna be an issue for you all. You all won't be able to see what has just blown up. But let me see if I could post it somewhere, because I want you all to see what she posted. Because I'm making a point here. You all be a little bit patient with me. I just want to show you something. So give me a second here, and I'm gonna post it up. Anybody on the panel want to talk real quick while I pull this up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that make sure if you're watching, just make sure you share the video and because the stuff that we're talking about here is very relevant. You see all these kind of things always going on, and it's just good to share with other people as well. So yeah, and and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel as well. Just that. But
Hey,
it's a lot
Mike,
going on that one. Like some people actually literally think that you live on sorry, Sinju, but yeah, I'll be quick. Like you live on Facebook. Like they will hound you to a point where they want to sit. Like it's almost like they're in a cell somewhere lonely, and it's like you take 1 minute not responding or 2 minutes they're back like, where the hell are you, all that kind of stuff. It's just it's not normal. Some behaviors are like very, very suspect. This is definitely a case of one, but yeah, I'll just let you speak, Cynthia.
yeah, especially it being posted in was supposed to be, a scholarship group. It says Amon Ra Squad Scholarship. It's supposed to be a scholarly group. And speaking of that, for those in the YouTube chat, please no cussing. Let's try and keep this scholarly. So let's keep the cussing out the chat, please. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely that. And I just wanted to make one more comment while you're watching this. Just know that this person is just randomly picking people to hound. Like, when you have an argument with somebody like on a particular topic or issue, you understand that. But literally hounding people just to be like, I know this, tell me I'm wrong, argue with me, prove me wrong. Like just any, mini, miny, mowing anybody. I mean, that's just when it gets really, really, really crazy. And this is definitely a case of it, because this is a case where like somebody just picks me randomly, to discuss something that I'm not even discussing, and then wants me to like to prove them wrong, like some of the words, like because most of this you're not seeing from where it started, but it was something like debunk me if you think you're clever enough, or like I look forward to you demonstrating that I'm incorrect. Like, how do you start a conversation with somebody like that? And that's not asking a question, and even if you're asking a question, you need to know who you're asking. Like, I can't just randomly ask somebody else about cooking and I don't know if they're cooking, if they're chefs or not, and then start arguing with them. That's just mental.
Okay, so yeah, I just took a glance at the chat. So listen, anybody in the chat, once I just go over this real quick, I'm going to post the link. So everybody in the chat is welcome. This Zoom session can hold 100 people. All right. The only thing we ask is that you leave the bad character, bad behavior over there in, outside. And then, we all don't talk over each other. So we don't condone stuff like that. And I don't tolerate it. So I just let everybody know up front. You know, I'm not known to be tolerant of that. All right, so that's just the bottom line. I don't behave that way, and I don't want that to be the thing either. So back to what I'm saying. Um, so hopefully you can see it on the screen. This is what the sister Moretziger posted. Okay, this is her screenshot. It's a little blurry because her screenshots are very small to begin with. All right, but this is blew it up so you all can read it. So she puts this screenshot, and so I'll read it if you all can't read it. I'm gonna read from here. Let me get my trusty arrow. Okay, so I'm gonna start here though because it's a cutoff. It's just a cropped. It says at the end of the 2nd century BC, the derogatory word Nuba, is that's how it's pronounced, or Nob, as some people say, which quotes slaves, appeared with it's so blurry I can't even read it. I have to actually go to the actual text itself to be able to read it. And I'm gonna show you why and how that is a point that I want to make. So let me find it. Because I can't even read it from the screen there. Where is it?
Like it says, with an ethnic meaning. That's what it looks like.
Okay. If you
Yeah.
can read it, read it.
It says, slide the arrow back a little bit so I can see that word before it.
Okay.
Okay, appeared with an ethnic meaning in the inscription engraved on the back of the statue of Isis from Jebel Bakr. Around the start of the Christian era, both the names coexist. Nob in the bewitchment text on a statue of a captive king, and you're right, it gets blurry now. Moho, what is that? Moho and Moho.
Okay. Well, let me just say the point because I don't, like I said, I want to kind of get through this.
Okay.
So the point is that she's showing that the word Nuba or Nob here is the origin of the word Nuba, Nubia, and Nubian, and it means slave. So it's just the same point. So let me just switch back over. All right, that's what she's posted up. But she's
Actually have a clear, I made it a little bit clear if you wanted me to share.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it. Because the point is what I said. She's showing something that shows where the word Nubia, Nubian comes from the word Nuba, or as people pronounce it, Nob, N-O-B, and it means slave. All right. So that's what's being put there. So let me just keep on going. And so she posts several things where it says first attestation of Nuba being used as an ethnological name. And she posts this here. And hopefully y'all can see that. That is scrolling. Okay, so then she tags again Emiket here. And again, she says, you made it very clear it don't derive from Nebu, gold. So where you think it stems from? Okay, so and like I said, I'm skipping the other posts and all the other comments because there's other posts with this many comments, even in another Facebook group. Okay, so this is spanning across 2 Facebook groups, mind you. All right, so I'm skipping all of that because we don't have time to share all of that. And so, what she's talking about here is that in another post, I was telling her that she's arguing against a ghost claim. She's arguing against something that nobody claimed. And I pointed it out to her, and it finally clicked to her that that was the case. But she doesn't admit it. She just keeps going on and on and on. So right here is what she's saying. You've made it very clear it don't derive from Nebu, meaning gold. So where do you think it stems from? And so she's tagging Emiket several times. And then she shows this one, which is the Meroitic script of Nob, meaning slave. Okay, so she shows that. I don't know if you all can see that on the screen. So it's the same point. So it's repetitive that she's making the point that Nuba, as this word here, is slave. Okay, so she's pointing that out. Now, she has this post here. She says, I'm all over this group. I'm all over this group, and it's pseudo. So she calls the Amara Squad scholarship group pseudo. All right. There, just out the blue. She just says it's pseudo. Then she goes on and reposts the same things again. This is the same post here, same picture she did here, same picture again right here. Look, it's all right here. Same pictures over and over again. Okay. Now you know how Facebook works. If you post on any post, it goes to the top of the group. Everybody knows that by now, right? So by constantly posting this post stays at the top of the group. And people do that. Some people do that purposely to bring attention to their posts. Some people will bump up old posts and bump it up so that people can see it and get attention for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. An old post that you want to show somebody and revisit and so on and so forth. But to constantly post on a post is going to keep it at the top for basically the full day. Now you can see it started off at 23 hours. Now it's 22. So this is 2 hours right here. 2 hours. Now look, emoji. What does this emoji do? It bumps the post up to the top of the group. Another emoji, same thing. Another emoji, same thing. Another emoji, same thing. So this is what I'm talking about. This kind of behavior is not, it's not a good look for people trying to learn and deal with topics that take some study, take some quality conversations to actually hash out and flesh out the information for. All right. And this is what I'm saying. This rap battle style adversarial engagement that these platforms and this environment promotes, it produces the behavior like this. It begets behavior like this. It's like a virus. It spreads and it causes this kind of behavior where people do this. This is the new norm. And what I'm saying is that this is not conducive for learning. This is an impediment to learning. All right. So now she tags me. Well, she don't tag me. She mentions my name. Tags Marine again. Then, because nobody responded fast enough, she says, well, the smooth talking people of America turns out to be first-rate bullshit. All right. So now, because she's kicking and screaming for attention and nobody has responded within these like rapid fire comments, now she, gets sideways and say, okay, the smooth talking people of America turn out to be first-rate bullshit. Who would have thought? I laugh when they try to tell the actual Sudanese archaeologists and Meroitic experts. Okay, so, and look at the enablers. So we have the same enablers here. I don't know if y'all could see the little bubble with the names in there. Aku, Cromanti, Mongizi, and Bokani or Bokani. If you actually go to the channel and you look at people who actually do these kind of things on her post, you're going to see the same names. All right. And I say birds of a feather flock together. All right. And I hope they're watching. I hope everybody that I'm mentioning is watching, because when I post a link, you're all invited and welcome to come in and have a conversation by all means. All right. So then she goes on and posts something else, which is the same thing from the topic post, which is a word that means releasing the slaves. So anyway, let me skip down. So here is where I jump in. Okay. So I address the sister and I tell her, I say, you have posted the same screenshots and comments in several places across at least 2 Facebook groups. Okay. This is what I tell her. I said, you were asked, are you saying that a population of people proudly named themselves a word that means slaves? And I said, your answer was yes. Now, going through your posts and comments, you are of the belief that a group of people call themselves slaves and proudly wear this name, slaves. You are argumentative and consistently argue against claims that were never made. You remind me of others that need conflict to learn and or to dialogue. These are signs of bad character. Your recent posts of spamming the thread with emojis and repeating comments are additional confirmations. For example, your comment, and then I just reposted her comment for the example where she says, well, smooth talking Americans turn out to be first rate bullshit. Nothing you've said here is new information, nor information that I don't already have and discussed some years ago. All of your screenshots are from articles and books that we have and use on these issues. They do not agree with your belief. I will post examples much clearer from my collection as a demonstration. Okay, so let me back up a bit. Remember, this sister believes that the word Nubian and Nubia means slave. That's number one. Number two, she believes that the people named themselves that, which is to say that they proudly named themselves slaves. Okay, that's what she believes. That's what she answered yes to. All right, so I want to make sure that everybody understands that. So then after I point that out, she addresses me and says, well, Jao, I haven't. Stop lying. And if I had, why you answer on none? Now, I don't, that's kind of incoherent English right there, but she's saying, I'm lying or something for what? And then she reposts the same things again. Okay, again, same thing. And then she says, show me where I am wrong, smart guy. And then she rapid fires again. Well, Jao, this is my post in your group. Remember, show the folks at home I am wrong. Okay, so she asked for it. So I come back and say, this is from Riley's. Now, there's a scholar by the name of Claude Riley. All right, he has a lot of works on the Meroitic language, Nubia, Nubians, and the people south of Kemet. That's his forte. That's what he does his scholarship on, and so on and so forth. Okay, so just let people know his name is Claude Riley. And if y'all need me to spell his name or links to his works, let me know. Okay, so I tell her, and this is works that we all have had for quite a while, because we talked about this. If any of y'all are familiar with Jonathan Owens, the Magi, the brother Smash Rockwell, or what have you, if you're familiar with him, years ago, even when I first met him online, speaking of Jonathan, he was studying Nubia and everything about Nubia, Ta-Nehisi and stuff like that. That was like his thing. That's why he calls himself the Magi. Okay, the Magi Archer, the vanguards of Kemet and so on and so forth. So we had these talks like years ago. I'm talking about since 2014. But anyway, so this is what I say to her. I say, so I put a screenshot. Now my screenshots are huge and crystal clear because I actually have the actual work. But anyway, it says, I say, this is from Riley's 2008, and then I name it. This is his work called Enemy Brothers, Kinship and Relationship Between the Meroites and Nubians, Nuba, page 217. So this is from his work, page 217, where he says, the etymology of the word Nubian, that's the caption. Then he goes on to say, another piece of the jigsaw is the name Nuba or Nubades, Nubian itself. It has been suggested to derive from Egyptian Nebu or Coptic Nub, gold, from the name of the city of Pa-Nubs, etc. It is often assumed in secondary literature that the word would mean slave, but this etymology has never been firmly established. It is obviously found on the post-medieval Arabic use of Nuba, Nubawi, for Sudanese slave. This is, of course, pointless with regards to the origin of the word. Okay, so now this is this scholar saying this. Okay. Then I go on to quote him again, the same scholar. I show a different screenshot from the same page, though. And it says, obviously, the term is not a neutral ethnic label. When writing in Greek, Nubians used this name. King Silko, 5th century AD, in his famous inscription from Kalabsha, describes himself as king of the Nobades and all the Ethiopians. Similarly, a Christian graffito from Philly, written in Greek in the second half of the 6th century, reads, I, Theodosius, a Nubian, etc. But in the old Nubian text from Kasr Ibram, the local name for Nobatia is Migi. You see this? The local name for Nobatia is Migi or Megitin, Gul. Literally the Megitian territory. That's what that means. Megitian Gul means the Megitian territory. The only occurrence of the term Nuba is inconclusive with respect to the actual meaning of the word. It occurs in a document from Kasir Ibram releasing a slave. Now, do y'all remember that she kept putting up? Let me go back up. Let me scroll up. Let me scroll up. Do you see this here? Let me put this here. This is her typing this. She said, in reference to the text in the original post, she has quotes, releasing the slave. Okay, so that's what she's saying. But this is what this scholar is saying. The only occurrence of the term Nuba is inconclusive with respect to the actual meaning of the word. It occurs in a document from Kasir Ibram releasing a slave, Old Nubian, which is said by his master to be kept as Nuba. And matter of fact, let me do this. I'll do something better. But let me just continue first. So then I post another screenshot from the next page in his works. All right. So I'm just letting you all know that I'm posting screenshots from this scholar's work. The same scholar that she's using, I'm posting screenshots from his work to show her that he doesn't agree with her conclusion, although she's using him as if he does. Okay. So I'm just showing you, I posted a screenshot here, and then I posted a screenshot here. All right. So I'm just showing you I posted these screenshots because I have the text. So I'm gonna switch over so you all can see the text itself. All right.
Now, when you're switching over, one thing that I'd like to note, because you are actually sharing this from the Amara School group page right now, what is there on our post, right?
Yes.
That some of those comments right in this section, where you're actually going through this, she deleted her comments, but we have screenshots of those because it was I think that was the part where you were telling about, where she's referencing stuff from. So then, and she was arguing you down that it's not. But I think
No, that's probably further down. It's probably further.
All right, okay.
I don't think it's
Okay.
it's probably further down.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So but I have to give some context here. So I'm gonna show the Riley's work directly, but I want to give some context. So after I post these screenshots from his work, she continues and says, Wujao, is Claude and the National Museum of Sudan wrong? Now, why would she ask me that if I'm like, why would she ask me, is he wrong? Like, what is that question about and for?
It's just a question to be combative. Like,
exactly. So I'm saying her question doesn't even make sense. Are they wrong? Because I'm quoting him, I'm quoting this scholar, showing screenshots to show her that her own resource doesn't agree with her conclusion. But remember, she said that the Nubians named themselves slaves. She agreed to that. Okay. So then she says, is Dr. Khalil wrong? He is a native Nubian speaker and a man who is credited with saving the language. Is he wrong as well? See, she's asking questions that have that doesn't connect with this part of the discussion. So she thinks that I'm saying the word Nubian doesn't mean slave. That's the only thing that makes sense of why she's asking me these questions. And this is what's happened throughout this whole conversation. She's creating statements that I've never made, arguments that I've never made, claims I've never made, and then she just goes on and on and on and on, arguing against stuff that was never said. So anyway, now one of the people that is of the same flock of feathers, Aku Kramanti, he asked me, is it possible this source is outdated? Now that question is irrelevant because what's interesting now, I want y'all to see something here. This person here, now mind you, if I hover over the smiley faces, the thumbs up, and the wow emojis and stuff, it's this guy, Akru Kramanti. Okay, and then it'd be some other people. But now I just want you all to pay attention. And this is how people enable this kind of behavior. He doesn't ask her if her sources are outdated, but he asks me, is it possible that this source is outdated? Now, I don't mind the question, but what I want to point out, though, is how people are very selective in asking these kinds of questions. It's very, very telling. It's just clear as day that these people enable each other in this type of behavior and this type of engagement. Okay. So he says that, is it possible the source is outdated? Now, that question doesn't make any sense to me. Even though I don't mind the question, but it doesn't make any sense because it's her source. Okay. But he doesn't know it at this point that he's asking me this question. He doesn't know it. So then she goes on. She says that, and this one is written by the National Museum of Sudan in Khartoum. Okay. And this one says that the word is slave. And then he asks her, so which is accurate? And then she answers him, how you mean? They both saying the same thing. So what she's saying is that the word Nuba means slave. And then she goes on to flood again. So here's some more flooding of some more screenshots. And then I go here. Oh, MK, you may be right.
yeah, I was telling you I was right because I have those. I was seeing, like looking at it while you're going through, and I could see what was missing. So it was at that point.
All right. So for those who don't know, what she said afterwards, yeah, and you're right. She actually deleted her own comments. And see, this is where you get disingenuous on top of disingenuineness on top of the bad character. It's all in one. So now my style of addressing people is that I always quote what I'm addressing. I quote the person's statement verbatim. I copy and paste it, and then I address it. So what you see in double arrow brackets, that's my style. Anybody who knows me on Facebook, social media, I always have done that from day one. I've done it before I even got on Facebook, way back in AOL and CompuServe days, debating on those platforms. So this has been my style. And I do it for several reasons. One, to be very, very crystal clear and precise on what I'm addressing, so there's no confusion. And then two, just in case people delete their comment, because they can't delete mine. So I quote them. So if they delete their comment, it's clear that they've deleted comment. And this is the case here. So I address her. This is what she said in the comment that she must have deleted because I don't see it above here. All right. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody could point her comment out to me, but I don't see it.
Nah, no, it's not there, but we could go back with the screenshot back to back because, scribes keep records. So that's why I was telling you, I know right there. That's where the other comments were, where she got caught in a lie, then woke up and came and delete. But yeah, keep going.
Okay. So I quote her. This is what she said. She said, no, that doesn't come from Claude. Claude says it derives from Meroitic slave. Panubs is derived from Nubes. That is a tree. That the name of Kerma. So, she's kind of a little incoherent in the way she wrote that. But she says, no, it doesn't come from Claude, etc. And so I address her and says, once again, you are lying. Here is a side by side of your post and my screenshot of the article I have from Claude Riley, 2008, and I give the name, page 218. So here's what I showed. Okay, so let me see if I can. Now you all won't be able to see it on the screen, but I'm gonna show you all this because it's a side by side, and this sister denies it. And again, this speaks to the character that's not conducive for learning. And so I'm going to show you all. So here it is. You all should be able to see it. So y'all can see it on the screen now. So that's what I show her, the side by side. Let me blow it up so you all can read it. Okay, so above the yellow line is her screenshot. Now she said it was not from Claude. All right. And if you read it, it says by the end of the 2nd century, knob slaves appears. Hold up, I'm make sure I can blow this up so y'all can see it. I think I read this earlier. And I think that this is not the same one that she had that's side by side. So I tried to show this earlier. It must be the other screenshot. And see, she erased it now. And so Imicat, you said scribes keep good records, right?
Yeah, I have it. I'll put it up.
Okay, so yeah, pull it up. But the point here is that as you can read here, it says, I keep him as a Nubian. Then this is from Claude's work. As a matter of fact, let me just share his work, and we're gonna go through this. All right, so now everybody see on the screen this person's work here. All right, so this is Claude Riley, and this is his paper called "Enemy Brothers: Kinship and Relationship Between the Meroites and Nubians." Nuba. Okay, and this paper is about 15 pages long, so it's not very long. So if you all want a copy of it, let me know. I'll make sure you get it. All right, but he tells you what his points are for the paper and so on. So he says this paper is concerned with 2 points. The first is the genetic relation of the Meroites and Nubians, or at least the common origin of their languages. A long debated problem which can now be considered as solved. The second point, namely, the early settlement of Nubian-speaking populations in the Middle Nile Valley is trickier. According to the main theory, supported by priests Behrens and Bekos Gerst, the kingdom of Kush was a multicultural state, including Nubian tribes that would have settled there in pharaonic times and kept their identity throughout the millennia, and so on. Now, let me just point this out because he makes note of this. He says, note that in this paper, the label Nubian is always used with a restricted meaning, namely for speakers of Nubian languages, as opposed to the Meroites, in order to avoid confusion. Similarly, the phrase Middle Nile Valley is preferred to is preferred to the traditional term Nubia. So he doesn't use the word Nubia. He uses the word Middle Nile Valley. Okay. And then he uses the word Nubian to mean speakers of Nubian languages as opposed to the Meroites. Okay. So he's making the separation, the distinction between the two people. All right. At least for the periods in time prior to the settlement of Nubian speaking populations on the banks of the river. Okay. So now let's get to the point here. So I'm going to scroll on down because this is a very good read. So I would encourage everybody to read it. All right. It's a very good read because he does some linguistic work to show some comparative linguistic work to, well, not much of the comparative work itself, but he's showing some of the conclusions from some comparative work. And he has another publication where he actually shows the comparative work. But anyway, some tables on some relationships between Meroitic and Nubian languages and so on and so forth. All right. So I'm gonna skip all of that. And I want to come down to the point here. So remember I showed the etymology. Here's where it is. The etymology of the word Nubian. All right, so we're gonna read this together real quick. It says another piece of the jigsaw is the name Nuba, Nubades, Nubian itself. It has been suggested to derive from the Egyptian Nebu, Coptic Nub, gold, from the name of the city of Panubs, etc. It is often assumed in secondary literature that the word would mean slave, but this etymology has never been firmly established. Okay. It is obviously founded on the post-medieval Arabic use of Nuba, Nubawi, for a Sudanese slave. Now, this is what this scholar is saying, okay? He's saying that it's never been firmly established and that what is obvious, though, is that it's founded on the post-medieval Arabic use of Nuba, Nubawi, for Sudanese slave. This is, of course, pointless with regards to the origin of the word. So he's saying that this post-medieval Arabic use is pointless with regards to what? The origin. But what he says about the origin, he says it has never been firmly established. Okay, so I want to say that at the gate, on the start, all right? Now, he goes on to say, obviously, the term is not a neutral ethnic label. When writing in Greek, the Nubians used this name. King Silko, and I already read this, 5th century, is in his famous inscription from Kalabsha, describes himself as king of the Nubades and all the Ethiopians. Similarly, a Christian graffito from Philly written in Greek in the second half of the 6th century reads, I, Theodosius, a Nubian. Then he goes on to say, but in the old Nubian text from Qasr Ibram, the local name from Nobatia is Migi or Migi-Gul, literally the Megidian territory. And he's obviously citing his references or whatever here. The only occurrence of the term Nuba is inconclusive with respect to the actual meaning of the word. So let me repeat that. The only occurrence of the term Nuba is inconclusive with respect to the actual meaning of the word. It occurs in a document from Qasr Ibram, releasing a slave, which is said by his master to be kept as Nuba. Brown translated, and I'll skip down to the rest, I keep him as a Nubian. Then he gives the citation, but the meaning is obviously not, I keep him as if he were a Nubian like myself. The use of the verb to keep, which is gar in Nobin, catch, tends to indicate that the master does not give him full freedom, but keeps him in his service. So the meaning of Nuba would rather be land worker, further evidence is required. However, in his Noban dictionary, Mokhtar Khalil translates Nob as slave, peasant, Nubian. And in Al-Mikavis, Nubian dictionary, the translation is peasant, man of lower origin, upstart, slave. Dongolese Nubians use it to designate the Noban speakers. But Noban speakers from Sudan prefer to call themselves what? Mahasi. And to return the compliment, the Dongolese Oshkiri, originally enslavers and not slaves, as often translated, even by native Noban speakers. In Noban, slave is Oshi. And I'm probably butchering this pronunciation, so I'll put that disclaimer out there. Oshi. Whereas Oshkir, which includes the causative suffix gir, means originally enslaver. All right. Now, to sum up, let's see what this Claude Riley sums it up as. All right. He says, to sum up, the word Nuba was used as an ethnic label by the Meroites, the Greeks, and later by the Romans and the Arabs, but not by the Nubians themselves. Let's repeat that one more time.
Mm-hmm.
To sum up, the word Nuba, Naba or Nuba, was used as an ethnic label by the Meroites, the Greeks, later by the Romans and the Arabs, but not by the Nubians themselves, or with a derogatory meaning. So, anybody on the panel, what do we call it when outsiders name somebody else?
Exonym.
Say it again.
Exonym.
One more time.
Exonym.
Right. An exonym, not endonym. Endo means internal. Exo means external, outward. So an exonym is a name that is given from outsiders. Okay. So this scholar is saying that the word Nuba is an exonymic label. The Nubians themselves, what we call in Nubians, obviously, did not call themselves that. So let's back up a bit. Even if the word Nubian means slave, the Nubians did not name themselves Nubians. Therefore, they did not name themselves slaves. And this is what I was pointing out to the sister, that even if the word Nubian means slaves, the Nubians themselves, the people we call Nubians, they didn't call themselves that. Okay. I can't be any more crystal clear than that. This scholar right here that's what he's saying. But what's interesting is, and this is contributed to the bad character, is that the sister used this scholar as a resource. So how is it that you're going to use this scholar as a resource to drive the point that Nubians mean slave and that's what they call themselves and so on and so forth, but yet the scholar is saying the opposite. Now I could just end here, but let's just go on a little bit because I want to get to it was another thing that I wanted to point out. Okay, obviously, and let's keep going. Obviously, it was not their self-designation. So he like puts it straightforward in straight plain English. Obviously, it was not their self-designation. So, panel, what do we call a self-designated name? What is that called?
Endonym.
Say it one more time.
Endonym.
Right. An endonym. Endo meaning inward, inside, and nym meaning name. An internal name. Exonym is an external name. Okay. So he's saying that it's not an endonymic label. It's not an internal name. Okay. Now, he goes on to say, if this self-designation has ever existed, it could probably be found in names like Nobatia, which is actually Makuria, and the native name of Bergid, which is Mergidi. Plural, the plural form is Mergi. All right. So I just want everybody to and believe me, if you all want this paper, I don't have no problem giving it to you, sending it to you, whatever the case is. All right. You can read the rest of it. So for the sake of time, and y'all took a whole bunch of time up right now, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but you could. But I want to see it was something else on here.
Yeah, but just to make it clear, remember that I specifically asked that, do you believe that a group of people would call themselves a word that means slave? And she answered affirmatively, yes.
Exactly.
And then she gave me the source, and the source said no.
Right.
And as soon as you mentioned this source, she said that is not the source. And those are the parts that I deleted. So I'm just trying to lay out, like, you see how these people operate. You can't be corrected. Don't read the source, arguing people down, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And if you read the rest of it, which, like I said, for the sake of time, he goes on to explain how it's not, or how obvious it is that it's not a self-designation. And then he goes over some linguistic, diachronic linguistic information in terms of sound changes and what language retained a certain sound to show you that it couldn't have been borrowed, and so on and so forth. So again, I encourage you to read this in full. Okay, read it in full. But I just wanted to show those portions to know. Now, mind you, so let me get out of here. So back to the thing. And I know I'm being long, and I appreciate anybody, still tuning in and following. And so my point here is that all of this could have been avoided, okay, if the sister did not exhibit bad character, all the little shenanigans, little immature posts and the smiley faces, and then all of her enablers cheering her on by liking her posts and stuff like that, and keeping it going. This could have been a very quick conversation, because obviously if she has the scholar's work and I have the same work, I spoke on this years ago, and if she's familiar with it, we could have synchronized what's being said very clearly and just walk through whatever. But that didn't happen, and it won't happen when people do things like that. And that's what I mean. It impedes the learning process, the sharing process, the whatever. There's no benefit in that. All right, but anyway, I'm gonna scroll down. I think y'all should be able to still see my screen. Was there
Yep.
anything else? Yeah, and you're right. I don't see where she said that it doesn't. Now, okay, but let me show you all something. Now she's reposting my posts. I mean, my screenshots. I mean, I don't mind, but she's reposting it, and she's telling me to read it very slow when I'm the one that posted it and pointed out this stuff to her. Now, okay, so now here's Aku Kramanti asking, is it possible the source is outdated and the museum in Nubia would have the updated information? So now here's the fact. Here's something that we can see from his question. Obviously, he did not read the actual content of the screenshots, because the museum that he's asking about and then Riley's work is saying the same thing. And she actually says it right here. I would say for certain that the museum is on par with what Riley says. And then SARS, which is the name of the museum, the Sudanese something, are based there. So they're the same. So the fact that he asked this question shows that he wasn't actually reading the content of the post. because anybody that reads it will notice to say the same thing. So anyway, I don't want to harbor too long on this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there was because the thing is, I don't know if you went over about from that particular source as well that goes through about the uncertainty with the word slave and whatever, the origins and all that.
Yeah, I showed that it was uncertain.
Okay, yeah, because that was her question, and I know also in the chat that was one of the questions that Chief asked. Like, so was she right about the word Nubia meaning slave? And so far, from even her sources, it says that it's uncertainty. Yeah, it's one of those things that nobody knows. So, and I know Jehudi did suggest that in these kind of instances, when you're trying to tell people that it means this, then instead of argue them down on issues that scholars are still unsure of, is you either have your own new works that you've come up with. Otherwise, it just seems redundant and weird just to argue people down about something that is uncertain. So just to answer that.
Right. Okay, so like I said, I don't want to harbor on it, but I guess in conclusion, because like I said, there's a lot more I could say. I could keep scrolling, I could show the other posts, I could show all the other comments, but the gist of what I'm saying is in the title of this video. Bad character is an impediment to learning. All right. And we see a lot of bad character all throughout social media and the YouTube streets. And this conversation, and I'm sparing you all the meat and potatoes of it, because this conversation is in two groups, several posts in each group, and then several comments, rapid fire comments and stuff like that. It's crazy. And I'm saying that whole conversation could have lasted a maximum of like 15 minutes without all the noise. And so remember what I said at the very beginning. I said we don't have time to mess around like that, because we're already by default way behind as a community. Even the brightest among us can't properly shine, because they're overcrowded or smothered with the noise out there. And any derogatory or enemy type of agenda that scholars on the world stage may have towards our communities, they're going to pick the loudest and wrongest amongst us and act like that person represents all of us. All right. And I'm sure you all have seen some things like that. I'm sure you've seen it like the news does it. Why is it that the news reporter, when they want to do some investigative reporting on some accident or some crazy event in a neighborhood, why do they always go to the random dude on the street, or random lady, woman or man on the street? Comedians make fun of that. Comedians say, they picked a dude from the corner, and matter of fact, Eddie Murphy did a whole skit on somebody trying to describe a car accident, and all that kind of stuff. So comedians, they up on it, but I'm saying that's the point. And that's what happens in scholarship. They big up the loudest, the most pseudo non-scientific person, and then act like that person represents everybody. Anyway, so I'm going to post a link, right? So anybody that has something to say, comments or information, questions, or whatever the case is, you're free to join. So I'm gonna post it in the chat if I can find my way back over there. I never really did figure out how to pin. Oh, now I know that I can't post that long link. Give me 1 second. Okay, it should be a quick link right here. There we go. All right, so there's a link. Now let me see if I can pin that. Okay, not Emmy Cat. I can't pin it.
Oh, okay. I thought that way probably would.
Nope, won't let me pin it. All right, so I just posted a few times. All right, so if anybody has any questions, let me actually take this off the screen. So I'm gonna open this up to open discussion. You could talk about what we talked about. I did see Chief X in the chat before. I don't know if he's still around. Chief X, you're more than welcome to come in because I know Chief X jumped on the post on a few of the posts and was saying, the sister is a lovely sister. She don't mess with anybody. She don't do this and she don't do that. All I see is just questions and things. And somebody else did the same thing. No, she just asking, y'all just mad because she's asking, she knows her stuff and she's asking all these questions. She knows her stuff and she's asking all these good questions stuff. Y'all just mad and this and that. Like nobody's mad. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, who has time for all of that? Nobody's mad. Trying to get through the information. But okay, so while we waiting for anybody to come in here, right? I do want to say this. What we're witnessing with all this stuff. See, this is how the conversation could have gone. Like a 15-minute synchronization of information and notes and whatnot. Then we could have a nice conversation. Because what I want y'all to notice is that okay, let's use black or Negro as the example. Okay. Anybody on the panel, tell me, what does Negro mean? What does it mean?
Would be like Negro from the color black.
Okay, so that's your answer? Negro means black?
No, okay, no, because you didn't say Negro like a color, so I'll be. I was trying to be politically correct.
No, I'm just asking, what does Negro mean? Okay, so Donnie Williams answers black. Correct. Okay, so Negro means black. Okay, everybody knows that or should know that, right? Negro from negro, in both Romance language, French and Spanish, Portuguese, or what have you, it means black. Okay, Negro means black. All right, African Americans, at one point, it was politically correct to say Negroes. After, it used to be politically correct to say coloreds. All right, so it moved from coloreds to Negroes. That's why we have the what is it? NAACP. What does that stand for? NCAAP or NAACP? What does that stand for? Man, anybody on the panel?
Yes, I'm looking at it right now. It means National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
The National Association for the Advancement of what people?
Colored people.
Colored people, right. So when that organization was founded, that's at that period of time, it was perfectly okay to call African Americans colored people. All right. I'm sure people are familiar with you see it in the movies and stuff like that. All right. Colored people. Then it was Negroes, or maybe I have it in reverse, but Negroes was okay to say. Then that fell out of grace. Then people were saying black. So you have in the 60s and leading on up to the 70s and stuff, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. James Brown brought it on home, right? Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Now, Negro, Negro, Negroes, it means black, blacks, right? Now, that's what the word means. But the way it is used, though, it is synonymous, or it was synonymous with slave. Why? Because it was the Negroes who were the slaves. So even though Negro doesn't mean slave, it's not, this denotation is not slave, but it became synonymous with slave because the Negroes were slaves. So this is how words start to change its scope and meaning. All right, on the way it's used. Now, this author is saying that, matter of fact, let me just might as well come out of this, put it back on to see everybody. So one of the things that this author is pointing out is, a matter of fact, I need to show it. I don't know why I just took that away. Let me just show it so you all can understand what I'm saying. It was, where was it? Here. When he says to sum up. Okay, so here at the bottom, he says that the only occurrence of the term Nuba is inconclusive with respect to its actual meaning of the word. It occurs in a document from Qasir Ibram, releasing a slave, Old Nubian, which is said by his master to be kept as Nuba. Brown translated, I keep him as Nubian, but the meaning is obviously not, I kept him as if he were a Nubian like myself. The verb to keep, which is gar, catch, tends to indicate that the master does not give him full freedom, but keeps him in his service. So the meaning of Nuba would rather be land worker. Further evidence is required. So if you look at the summary, the same thing is going on, and this is what I pointed out 6 years ago, that this is what scholars use to confuse the situation. All right, or what they've used confuse the situation, because the word Nuba, because the people that are designated that were slaves post-medieval. That's what I wanted to get back to. Where did it say post-medieval? Was it back up here? Where was that? Right here. It says, it is often assumed in secondary literature that the word would mean slave, but this etymology has never been firmly established. It is obviously founded on the post-medieval Arabic use of Nubawi for Sudanese slaves. Okay, so right there, you have a case of the same thing here in America, where people who were being called blacks, but in the Latin or Romance language, not the form BLACKS, blacks, but in the form of Negro. Those are equivalents. Black and Negro are equivalent, 2 different languages. They were being called blacks, but they were slaves. They were enslaved and they were slaves. Okay, here in America. And so black became synonymous with slave. So because the people who were being called Nubians or Nuba were actually enslaved and treated a certain way, then we see the shift post medieval Arab times, or post medieval Arab, how the word is used for slave, Sudanese slave. Same thing going on. Even to this very day, if you look at videos about the Nubians over in Egypt to this very day, they were transplanted from their local home, ancestral home, which is around the Aswan and the Aswan Dam and Elephantine and that whole area. They were forcefully moved when they built the Aswan Dam and all of that stuff. And they have a village called the Nubian Village. And if you go there, there's documentaries where they're interviewing the people and stuff like that, where they complaining about how they're being treated and their living conditions and the whole nine. Same thing. They're looked at as the low of the low. And they're treated like the low of the low. And in order to come out of that condition, they have to integrate, and the people there are against that because they feel like if they do that, they're gonna integrate themselves out of existence. So much so that the people over there that are called Nubians, they actually intermix with each other. Families reproduce among each other, cousins, brothers and sisters and stuff, to keep themselves alive as a people. That's the extent that they go to over there right now. You can see documentaries right there on YouTube where they're interviewing these people talk about that. These people that are called Nubians over there. And so the same situation has happened here, happened over there, and it's just continues. And this is what I've pointed out years ago, that let's not do the same thing. Let's not view all of that the same way. Let's clean that up. Let's call the people what they're supposed to be called. If we're talking about the Wawat people, let's call them the Wawat. Talk about the Magi, the Beja, Luo, Kikuyu, Masai, et cetera, anybody in North Sudan and that Sudan area. You got to name some of the Dinkas. Who else?
The Zulu's son.
Come on, Sudan. Name
Oh,
some.
in Sudan. Okay, Nuer.
Nuer, right? That's it. Boy, we got.
Yeah, I'm blowing blanks right now.
We got to brush up, man. All right. So look, I'm posting a link. A few times. So if anybody has anything to say, so I do a lot of talking. People call me MC Iron Lung, and I had to accept that MC Iron Lung. At least one of my lungs is iron, but the other one, not. I'm not MC Iron Lungs. I may be MC Iron Lung, but not lungs. But anyway, so if anybody else has something to add on to that, or
I have a quick question. While you do that, I wanted to ask, would the people of Miro be what is considered Black today?
Mero, yeah.
Okay. And
but wait. But see, I mean, it's good that you asked it that way, considered Black, because remember, the modern social construct of race is just that, it's modern. So through that lens, a lot of people around the world would be considered Black. And this is what a lot of quote unquote Blackologists tend to do. It's this flat blackness type of thing that goes on where everybody becomes Black as if everybody's the same. And that's a problem that's very, very problematic and very, very disrespectful, if you really think about it, because the categorization of human populations was never done based on skin color. It was always done based on more deeper things, cultural things, language being a main thing, food production, how you produce your food, how you dress, how you protect yourself. So protection, weaponry, food production, food, clothing, language, and then the synchronized set of rituals and whatever things that you did for problem solving. And I could list some more. Those are all cultural elements that makes a culture what it is. That's how people were distinguished from one another. It was not based on skin color. It just wasn't. And so for us to do it today in history and in ancient times when it was never done that way, it's a big ocean of confusion. And so we should never do that. And so the arguments about whether the Egyptians are Black or not is completely irrelevant. Completely. Egypt is on the continent of Africa. Ancient Egypt, I should say, was an African kingdom. Period. The Egyptians were the Egyptians. to time travel, to put them in a time machine and bring them up here into modern social constructs and then argue whether they were black or not is just really a waste of time. And people focus on that instead of focusing on the genius of the people themselves. They refer to themselves as the Rimage. And they did what they did. They did what they did for over 3,000 years. They weren't preoccupied with whether they were black or not. But we are. And it gets very, very ridiculous, and we missed the boat. Think about this. And I started off this show by saying that we are far behind, right? I said, even in the narrow scope of Egyptology, you got German school, French school, British school, and so on. All these schools of Egyptology that has a plethora of information. Some serious man hours and dedication has been put over the decades into Egyptology. We are at the bottom of that list. We are far behind. Our communities are far behind in that endeavor. And here's one of the reasons why. We're so preoccupied on whether the Egyptians were black or not. That's what we argue about. But guess what? The German school, the French school, and the British school, they don't argue about that. But look how much progress they have made in terms of studying Egypt. Irregardless of whether, the archaeologists are digging up sacred tombs and we may feel a way about that and whatnot, they are far, far ahead in terms of studying Egypt. Matter of fact, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't know hardly anything about Egypt if they didn't dig up the tombs and do those archaeological digs. So on one hand, we say, oh, they're bad, they shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. But yet we want to talk about Egypt. But guess what? The only way you can open your mouth and talk about ancient Egypt is because of what they did. That's the only way that we would even know what we know, is because of those archaeological finds and all of the artifacts that we can now read and see and stuff like that. You see, so it's crazy. That's why I'm saying that argument is a bunch of noise. The whole Egypt is gay. If the Egyptians were black, if Kemet means black or the land of black skinned people and stuff like that, all of that stuff is for the birds.
Okay, so I'll follow up on that blackness. I know we have talked about this a lot of times and why that is not something productive. But I'm going to ask the next question just on that one. Would be, do people argue about whether the people of Meroe were black or white? Because I haven't seen that, but just in case there are those kind of arguments, I would like to know.
No.
Okay.
They don't.
Okay, then to my last question, and I'll stop there.
No, you could ask the same question about Kush.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, and this applies to that question to that as well. Did the people of Meroe enslave the other Nubians, what people call other Nubians?
Slavery pretty much happened in many cultures. It's actually the other way around. You be kind of harder pressed to find where slavery did not happen versus where slavery did happen. So yes, slavery occurred in many places, including Kush, Nubia, Egypt, all of that.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Dua. I was just asking that because we do have records that show like the warring and things of that nature, but nobody ever focuses on like it in this case, like where we have even on the source that you provided, where they show an enslaved king, a captured, not enslaved, sorry, a captured king of Nubian by the people in Meroe. But because everybody agrees on that part that these are the same people, the arguments don't come in because of those type of inscriptions that pop up, nobody argues about this are different people, but somehow it comes with Egypt and south of everybody that lives south of Egypt, and I see that as some contradicting logic. Because the same thing you see between Egyptians and Kush is the same thing you see with other different groups on the southern part, but somehow people don't focus on that and make it like, this is, you see, they are fighting each other. They don't allow each other within each other's borders, and they make it clear on the wall, like you see, like the people draw on their wall when they have those inscriptions, and then nobody will say that means that these two people of different races. But somehow when it comes to Egypt, everybody, those people who say that, all their logic switches to these are two different groups because look at their walls.
Right. No, man, that's all good points. And that's important to point out, because nobody's arguing over whether the Kushites were black or not and all of that. So it's always something about Egypt. It's always something about Egypt. And you have it on both sides of the argument where it's just noise. You have people that are romanticizing Egypt, making Egypt out to be something that it is actually not. And then you have people who are on the other side making Egypt something that it's not. And what I keep saying is that allow Egypt to be Egypt. All we have to do is let those people speak for themselves. Let the scribes, see the scribes of Kemet, the Seshu, Ni Kemet, the scribes of Kemet documented Kemet. All we have to do is get out of their way. That's it. That's why the Seshu Ma'ani Medew Netcher, we are our advocacy is to raise an army of scribes to touch bases with the ancient scribes and what they left behind. And by doing that, now we can take a peek into the culture of Kemet and allow Kemet to speak for itself. But listen, most people who do most of the romanticizing and most talking about Kemet, they don't engage Kemet by way of its language. And the only way you can know about Kemet is by way of its language. Think about this. If a person cannot read what the culture itself left behind to attest for itself and speak for itself, you got to ask that person, what are you telling us? For example, Sarah Seti has been dealing with Egypt for a long time. Everybody knows who that is, Sarah Seti. He's a very popular person in the community and all of that, right? He took a position that the hieroglyphic writing system was not deciphered. Okay, now this is after 15 years. This is according to him. Okay, so I'm not putting words in his mouth. You can go watch his old videos. He's been studying this stuff for 15 years. He's been lecturing for 15 years. The PowerPoints that he does and this and that for 15 years. So after 15 years, he takes a stance, public stance, that the hieroglyphic writing system has never been deciphered. Now, check the logic with that. You got 15 years of talking about ancient Egypt, even being initiated into the, the Amun-Ra and all that kind of stuff that you could hear him talk about. Being a student of Dr. Ben and Ashra Kwesi and all of that, right? 15 years of lecturing about Egypt and so on. Then he says the hieroglyphic writing system has never been deciphered. So the logical question to ask him and anybody like him is, okay, then what have you been teaching and talking about for those 15 years if we're blocked from knowing about the Egyptians from themselves because you say that the language or the writing system has not been deciphered? Where are you getting the information from then? Like where is it coming from? If nobody knows the language and the scribes recorded the history and culture in the language, but the writing system has not been deciphered, and you've been teaching for 15 years, where's it coming from? Is it all that made up? You see what I'm saying? It makes no sense at all. But yet people didn't even question that. So we took a stance. I was like, no, SETI, you and your professor, Walter Williams, and anybody who thinks like that, you all are wrong. And we wrote a book and we refuted it hands down. Nobody brings up that book. I'm going to tell you this right now. That's the book that got all of them shook. Nobody's touching that book. All right. Nobody's touching that book. All right. So, and the link to the book, if you want to know what I'm talking about, link to the book is in the description. Has the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered? A rebuttal to Walter Williams, because we don't, we decided not to deal with the students. We want to deal with the source of these claims. And me personally, I don't deal with people who are not, not qualified or met the requirements to even have these conversations. I tell people, you got to bring me your teachers. That's me personally. I have better conversations with people's teachers than people themselves, because, they don't, it's like, because I end up having to have to explain something, like, and sometimes, and I'm sure this happens to everybody. So I'm not anybody special or anything like that. And it could be about anything. I'm sure that everybody has experienced when you get into an argument or debate with somebody, one of your friends or whatever, your friend could be so wrong, but not know it. So you have to actually educate them in order for them to even know that they're wrong. And so that gets very tiresome to constantly do that. So I have taken a stance like, listen, I bring me a teacher, because I'm not going to sit here and you take an adversarial position against me and try to learn in conflict where I have to teach you just so that you can know that you're wrong. It's like you don't even know you're wrong, but I have to do too much to show you that you're wrong. And I don't mind doing that. But in the environment of these platforms and things, it's adversarial, and they're not, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. And a perfect example is people are still, after years, people still think that the place name, the toponym Kemet, the place name, toponym Kemet, the place name, the toponym Kemet means the land of black people. It's talking about the people. That is so backwards and basic. Never, ever does a place name refer to people. Let me repeat that. At no time ever does a place name refer to people. That's why it's called a place name. It always refers to places, not people. Words that refer to people are called ethnonyms or demonyms. From ethnonyms, you get ethnicities and things, these distinctions. But toponyms, from the word topos, meaning place, and onym, meaning name, those are place names. They refer to places, never people. Like that is so basic. You don't even have to know anything about anything from the language. That's just so basic.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you there for 1 second and just update you on where that argument has reached as of today. So the whole Kemet thing is abandoned. What the argument is, and this is how people move goalposts, is that the word Kemimiu, it will be silly to mean a place. So it's moved to a whole different argument.
Yeah, I'm saying it don't listen, it doesn't matter where the goalpost is. There's no game being played. Like there's no game. People are trying to create, they're moving goalposts. They're even switching the game. Like to move a goalpost, you got to be playing football. Like people aren't even playing football anymore. The goalpost is not even movable. Like it's just it's out of this world at this point. And it's ridiculous. And so that's what I'm saying. It's because of a lack of information and knowledge. And when you try to help people, and I'm glad you said that, because it brings us back to the topic of this video. Bad character is an impediment to learning. And so when you take the time, and trust me, I have taken time out. Anybody who knows me, who've been my friends on social media and see what I post and how I engage people and stuff like that, over the years, you'll know that I'm the first one to try to help people. And I'm not special, and I'm not saying I'm the only one at all. I'm just one of those people that love to engage, share information. I like to learn from people and so on and so forth. I will try to help a person. But this climate creates people to be adversarial. The ego flares up to where they gotta engage you through conflict to learn something. And then a year later, they'll repeat what you taught them. They won't admit you taught them that, but they'll repeat what you taught them as if you never taught them that. And then they end up trying to pretend to teach you something. And I've seen that. I've seen people change up their how they transliterate stuff, trying to tell people that your transliteration system is way off. Don't do it that way. Do it this way. Oh, what you mean? No. Argue with me down. 2 years later, their transliteration system is exactly what I told them to do 2 years ago. Same thing. I mean, I see it all the time. You got people who watch our videos now, probably watching now, or watch videos in the archive, then go on other platforms elsewhere and then say some things as if we didn't say it, or as if they didn't get it from us, or whatnot, and take a position and see. And I don't want to give the wrong impression. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But here's where it does go wrong, is when people who do that then take a adversarial or oppositional position against a person that they learn something from. And to those people, I say, there are people and characters out there that can only learn through conflict. I got personal friends that are like that. I grew up around people like that. They can only learn through conflict. They're very stubborn, we say hard-headed, whatever, and they only learn through conflict. And I'm sure everybody has that friend who only learned through experience. Like everybody got that friend that gotta touch the iron, the hot iron. Everybody got that friend that gotta touch the hot stove. Oh, it's hot, it'll burn you. I don't believe you. And they over there reaching and touching it. Hey, don't play with broken glass. Oh, it ain't gonna do nothing. My skin is tough. And then play with the broken glass. Boom, kick, cut up. Got to run to the hospital, get stitches. Everybody has friends like that. But now, as adults, it metamorphosized into something else. And I'm telling you, we got grown adults out here who can only learn through the filter of their ego, but in conflict. And again, I'm attributing all that to bad character. We've got to do something as a community. We got to do something. And I'm and listen, I'm holding the elders, the so-called elders of our community, accountable for that. Because you got elders who don't say nothing, don't say anything. And not only do they not say anything, they're silent, but they also enable that kind of behavior. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. We had to actually have a conference. When I say we, me, myself, Brother Sanjeti, Asar Imhotep, and the brother Unk. At some point in the past, we got on a panel with the elders, Mku, Mze, Olatunji, the elder Olatunji, and the younger brother, Kufu. Those are the only three that showed up. But included in that was the elder, the Ka Kilimanjaro, and Mfundishi. Okay. All those that I named were saying things about me, Sanjeti, and Asar's work on the place named Kemet and dealing with Sheikh the Diop and his work and stuff like that. And so we're like, okay, we don't play the noise game. So let's meet, let's have a good talk. Let's talk with the elders and whatnot. And the only ones that showed up was who I named, Kufu, Olatunji, and Mku. And we had a good time. Like we discussed what we discussed. They saw what we were talking about. And at the end of the day, it was all laughs and giggles. It was straight up good. They even actually apologized and the whole thing. I mean, it was the perfect way of engaging elders and the younger generations. And by the way, some of these elders are not that much older than some of us. People don't really know how old some of these people are. Like, they be like 2 years apart, and like, I'm your elder. Like, I don't know about that, man. If you were in high school with somebody on the top end or the low end, you're in a peer group. They always say there's a 7-year peer group. A 7-year range is peers. But anyway, so anyway, we end up having a good time about that. But then there's other elders out there that enable that kind of behavior. So the elder that didn't show up, Dakar, let me say this for the record too. Dakar Kilimanjaro, he didn't show up, but he apologized, or he understood and apologized, privately. So I want to make sure I acknowledge that, because I don't want to give any wrong impressions and whatnot. The only person who did not show up and did not apologize and had no reaching out of nothing was the elder Mfundishi. So that's that. But anyway, I mean, anything else? Because I'm up here talking a lot. You know what I mean? And these people don't, they don't want to engage. And me, like I said, and I'm saying this because there's people watching right now, and I know people are gonna watch and report, which is cool. But if you're gonna report and say what I say, quote me right. I don't mind engaging people, but the people with bad character, I don't have time. I don't have time. Matter of fact, I'm gonna coin a new word tonight. I'm gonna coin a new word for these people that I feel that are children, immature children in adult bodies. And I'm gonna figure out a word for that. I'm gonna make up a word. And yes, it's gonna be made up, and I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna start using it. But I don't have time to babysit immature adults and stuff like that, especially when we have so much work to do. I don't mind having fun. Like, fun is fun. We can have fun, entertain, and all that good stuff. But when it comes to doing work that we're so far behind off of and everything, we can't be, we can't get down like that. And so I engage people's teachers. So people got so much to say. Bring me your teachers. And if any of y'all familiar with me, y'all have heard me say that. People try to instigate and want me to debate this person, that person. And people don't even know if a debate, they won't even know what a debate looks like if it like smacked them in the face. Because what we think are debates on these platforms, they're not debates. They're just fussing matches. And it's very entertaining, so it's enjoyable. Those are not debates. What you debate are topics. You don't debate people. And just look at how debates are put together. They get two people first, then decide on the topic. There's no debating team that I know of that does things that way. That's backwards. You debate topics, not people. You don't put people together and then create a debate topic. No. People do research, and when they come together to sort the research, they find out that they have differences of opinion based on research, their own research and views. Then that's the ingredients that creates a debate. The points, the views, and everything, not people. So anyway, I'm gonna post this link again, man. Nobody came in. I can't see who's in here just yet, but if any of y'all have anything to say, because I'm not gonna be here all night.
I'm just thinking of all the times we keep asking, like, are there any questions? And there any questions? And then you have like somebody like Chief X who be like, yeah, this person was just trying to ask a question. And for real though, like on that group, it needs a lot of cleanup because it's not even people asking questions, it's just people starting something. Like, you know, they just want to, you know, create some kind of friction and just no, like I just want to ask something stupid just to get people on my case or something like that, or to, you know, just push people's buttons. And those are not like questions because people are just looking for a little, you know, opportunity to tussle with other people, and that's not cool. But we ask a lot of times for people to ask us questions. So it's not like we try to run away from questions like Chief was saying.
Yeah.
But we normally don't get, you know, even though we ask, we don't get people asking so much, you know.
Well, if anybody has questions, you all are welcome to come into the session. I'm trying to scroll and look see if any questions in the chat.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I sure can. I'm not.
Yeah,
see
I
you.
just I tapped in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to ask this question,
Okay.
and I don't know if it's cool to say names or whatnot, but I know you started out the session talking about, you know, you might say a name, but it ain't about this person's name. So
Right. Nah, you can say you can. I prefer you to say a name, you know, because I don't, you know, yeah. So by all means, go ahead.
well, you know, I rock with y'all, but let's just say, because we spoke on a couple names earlier, like one of the good brothers, Smash Rockwell in his book,
Yeah.
and on the Saw Netter show, you know, stop me if I'm doing too much or whatever, but Zion Lex had said that Smash Rockwell had put in his book that some Nubian scene was a wrestling team. Did you hear that comment?
Nah, I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So do you have like, do you have any?
Well, I have the book, but I'm pretty much done with it. I've been done with it, and I never seen that part.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I didn't hear the comment or anything, and I don't have the book. I don't have Jonathan's book in front of me to like.
Okay.
Unless you had a page, like, did he give a page number or something? Did he?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, but nah, but I didn't see it either. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not familiar. But okay, but let me say something though. Here's the thing too. Every single scholar and scientist make mistakes.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Now, like I said, I'm saying that I have no knowledge of what Zion Lex said, or I don't have the book, so I don't know if it's a mistake or what. I'm just saying in general, scientists pride themselves off of falsification and making mistakes. Actually,
Right.
real true scientists, when they're proven wrong, they get excited because
Right.
because it means that they got to do more work. You know, Neil
Right.
deGrasse Tyson will tell you in a heartbeat that all the time. But anyway, um, so but see, so here's the problem I have with that is that in our communities and on these platforms, if there is a mistake or if there is something that is wrong, or that's what a mistake is, but whatever, is blown up to the point where it becomes the issue instead of solving the problem. And see, real scholars and real scientists are problem solvers.
Mhm.
They're conflict resolutionists. And so even if the mistake can come from anywhere, the business is about solving the problem. You know, and so that's the approach we should have, where we're all in on it, trying to get to the reality of something, as opposed to, if a mistake is made, we big it up so much that becomes the debate and that becomes the argument. Meanwhile, everybody else is learning and solving problems, but yet we're so focused on something and running the whole thing about it. That's the problem I have with stuff like that. With any, and this goes for anybody, not it goes for anybody, because
Right.
we can all make mistakes from severe mistake, mistakes to little small things, slip ups, or whatever. But like I said, I don't know anything about that specific that you were saying, but that'd be interesting. That so say it again though. He said that Jonathan said what?
Yeah, there was a scene where it appeared that well, it was a scene where the Nubians have been bound and tied,
Mhm.
and Zion's claim was that Jonathan's book said that he said that Jonathan said this was a Nubian wrestling team. And I guess he thought he just had some major point or something like that. And I was like, I never read that in the book because I have the book.
Okay. Well, see, yeah, like I said, I don't know about that specifically, but let's say Jonathan did say that. And
Okay.
and I want to be clear because people be taking sound bites. I'm not saying Jonathan is. I'm saying hypothetically, let's just say that is the case. Then what? You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be made out to be weaponized. Like people weaponize things like that. And I'm not even part of the conversation, but I guarantee you that something like that, what it tells me is that that's weaponized to say, okay, if Jonathan made that mistake, then he don't know what he's talking about. Therefore, I'm a big myself up. And
Okay.
like in Zion Lex case, now I'm just guessing. Okay, so whoever watched it can tell me if I'm wrong. And I'm only using my logic and connecting dots. I know Zion Lex to be a Hebrew something. He's something affiliated with Hebrew. Okay, that I do know. And so for him to upstand a person who studies Egypt and Nubia and stuff like that, such as Jonathan, that's a big deal to him. So what that's saying, if that's the case, is okay, if Jonathan making those mistakes, but look at me, I'm a Hebrew and I can correct even a Kemetic person,
Right.
type of thing. I can even correct it. So it's all about putting down and uplifting for whatever purpose and stuff like that. See, I don't get down like that, because if that's the case, then I can tell Zion Lex he's wrong on the word Sekir Unk. The word Sekir Unk doesn't mean bound for life. The word Sekir means to smite. And it's somebody who is smitten alive, because people got smited and was killed and they're no good. But smitten alive is what the word Sekir Unk is. And if they want to use the word bound, there's a word bound for the word Unk.
Yeah, we went over. Sorry, I don't mean
Yeah,
but we went over that the other night.
exactly. So I'm just saying that this type of work, man, everybody's need to calm down and just do the best they can, come together and problem solve. But instead, people create problems, create conflicts. You got this off and on again friendship, people cursing each other out, being disrespectful, being childish, all this stuff. And then in the meantime, a few people making money off of that. And then in the meanwhile, we're not making progress. Because why is that? Talk about this same stuff over and over again.
Let me finish, Amy Cat, please.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say thank you for letting me come on, and hopefully I added something, because when we started out the panel or the conversation or whatever, it was about character, and this is you're on you guys are on point, Amy Cat, all you guys, Sean and all them, on you Wajawu on point. So, and I want to say too that, man, I learned a lot from y'all. So just keep it coming.
I appreciate that, man. And you're more than welcome. I know I see you in the chat and everything. And I don't know if you're interested or if you have time, but we have classes and courses, and we have sessions that we don't go live with, and we deal with the language. People in the beginners level go through the textbook, and we deal with that. and everything. We had some really good conversations. So if you're interested, you know, make sure you reach out.
Indeed.
Let me know and all that.
All right, Hotep.
All right, Hotep, appreciate it.
Before you leave, I was just gonna ask you something real quick. I was just asking about what you were talking about in that scene that you were saying was being where the Zanlex was talking about Jonathan being wrong. Did you have like text on the scene as well, or was it just like a picture?
I think it was if I remember correctly, it was just a picture. I didn't see no text. I didn't see no Netcher on there.
Okay, well, then really, I mean, yeah, it would be hard to actually figure out in that sense why somebody would say somebody's wrong just on a picture alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I got a question for you too. Okay, when all that was being said and stuff, well, if you said there was no text, I was gonna say, was there any translations done or said or whatever? But if there was no text in the picture, then obviously you can't translate something that's not there.
Yeah, he was excuse my language, he was just running his mouth and just kind of said those things real quickly. You know what I'm saying? You know how they move and stuff like that, but he just kind of went over it real quickly and made a claim. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm starting to think, you know what I'm saying? I never fell for it, but just the methodology of these dudes, y'all helped me look at it a different way. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the
No,
thing.
there was glyphs. There was glyphs on there.
Oh,
Well,
okay. I could be wrong, you know what I'm saying? I'll correct myself, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, if there was glyphs, then we just say rest my case. Like if there's glyphs and nobody's reading the glyphs, then there's nothing to talk about over there.
yeah.
But the glyphs will tell you what's going on.
So did the brother that said there was glyphs, is there a screenshot? Do y'all want to go through it or?
Yeah, so if somebody finds whatever was shown, then
No,
we
we've seen it and shared this from the Saqqara tomb of Horemheb, and we were
okay.
trying to find more of it, and you found the bottom piece to it, and you think we might also have more of that tomb.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. All right,
Yeah,
so
but
I'll
see,
tell you what.
it goes to what we were talking about earlier on character. Now, I don't know if Jonathan is right or wrong, or what the claim was to say that he was right or wrong, but I do know his character. And if he is wrong and is proven wrong,
He'll
he
fix
will
it.
have, yeah, he will have no problem changing his stance on the subject. And that's why scholarship, um, character is so important. And I really think that scholarship reveals your character, because to go and do the tedious work of examining facts without bias and come to a true conclusion, it takes good character. And it's just sad that we don't have more in our so-called cautious community with the character that true scholarship needs.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about this. Let me just share my screen, though. And so what we can do, we can use this as, I mean, today is Friday. We would have done a freestyle Friday night, but we can use this as and start off next time we go live. We can start off with this. But I'm just gonna share my screen. This what you're talking about? Because I posted this before. That's what you're talking about. Everybody can see that.
2.
Okay. So if that's what is being spoken of, yeah, then there's text here. And so if this wasn't explained, then the question would have to be, well, how, but I would have to see what is being said that Jonathan said
Yeah,
about
I don't think that's the one. To the brother that chimed in, maybe he can confirm that.
June, is it this is it you talking about, right? Or it's not?
I don't know about what's in Jonathan Owens's book, but in Lex's um presentation, this is the picture he used to say that it was. He said that it was a wrestling team, a Nubian wrestling team.
Okay, well, if this is it, I don't see how Jonathan would say that this is a wrestling team when nobody's wrestling. Like, why would I'm just saying. So
No, yeah, it should have been in Lex's presentation where he claimed that Jonathan was wrong to produce what Jonathan actually said, and you know what I'm saying. Like, if he said he was wrong, he should have showed Jonathan's book where he was actually wrong. 'Cause
yeah. Well, I know what we do and what we've done and always do is we source the claim because remember, it's not about the people, the person or anything, it's the claim. And so when we refuted Professor Walter Williams' claim, we actually quoted all of his claims and we went through his claims one by one. We gave the page number, the book that it was in, and quoted verbatim the claim, and then we addressed it. And we did that for each one. We cited the claim, addressed it. Next claim, addressed it. Next claim, addressed it. So that needs to be put into practice because at the end of the day, we want reality. We want the accurate information, no matter what it is. We want to be glued to reality, which is accuracy. And so if anybody's wrong, then we should correct it. But there's a way of doing that. And I'm saying that this climate that's being produced and producing bad character is not that climate. It's not conducive for that kind of stuff. You'd be hard pressed to even try to correct somebody without somebody getting upset. Because here's the thing: when you correct information or you challenge information, people think you're challenging them, and they take it personal. And the reason why is because they haven't been trained to detach themselves from the information. Like real scholars and scientists don't personalize information because real scientists wants people to prove them wrong because the scientific process is all about falsification. Like that's a hallmark of the scientific to be even labeled as science versus pseudoscience. It has to be falsifiable in order for it to even start a scientific process. So nobody ever attaches themselves to information that can may or may not be, proven wrong or refuted. That's crazy, but people do it, and they take offense. So when you say their information is wrong, they think that you taking a shot at them and taking it personal, and that comes from the lack of being in a real scholastic environment, because a lot of college upper grads and graduates, there's a sense of this. It's just known because matter of fact, in order for you to get your master's and PhD, you have to defend your claims in a dissertation or thesis. You have to defend. You have to go before a board and let them chew you out, and you got to defend it. And so you don't get your PhD until you're able to do that. So every PhD holder, they're not going to take information personal because in order for them to get that PhD, they had to go through the fire. So a lot of people who are not, they're not in the school like that. People graduate high school, that's it.
Yeah.
And you got some people who never graduated high school. I guarantee you, if there was a way for us to know who graduated with what and what kind of grades they got, I guarantee you there would be a correlation to between that and the behaviors that we see. I bet you. Now I can't prove it because I can't get that information, but I'm telling you, that's my guess. There's a correlation. Because even on the people I do know that information from, it matches up. People who never graduated from high school, I can put them in the category.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I appreciate it. But I don't know if any hold. Let me see it. But listen, on this one, so if this is it, I want to see in Jonathan's book. See, now you're gonna have me
I don't think that's it. Because it was looking like one of those scenes where they had like some Nubians, and I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying, who's different or whatever, but it looked like they was, you know, more Nubian, big lip, you know, normally how they predict the Nubians.
okay, well, if this one's not it, maybe somebody in the chat knows.
When he had shared it, it was just that lighter colored portion. He didn't show the rest of it.
Yeah, okay, because see, I have this whole section. As a matter of fact, I have the whole wall. This matter of fact, this is Horemheb's tomb. And I have pictures of the entire wall, but they're in, you know, pieces. And so this is a big piece. And so if I blow this
Yeah,
up,
they're saying it's the same image. It's just that he showed a smaller one, I think. So yeah.
yeah, because a lot of people may have this section here. If you look at it, this section is actually a separate piece that goes with the other section, but you can see how people will reproduce only one section.
You know what? That might be it. That might be it now. Now that you blew it up, is
So if I blow it up, then and that's all you see, then that's you know.
and he was trying to argue that that was a slave auction block. That's what he was trying to say.
Oh, okay.
But they're sitting very comfortable and, you know.
No, I mean,
But
but the right thing to do, see, and then here's where the character comes into play, and then the
right.
proper intentions. The right thing to do is to know any scene, you have to read the text around it. And so one, we have to admit that the text is not, we don't have the full text, because you can see this in the columns and there's a major portion. We don't even know how much text is missing. So it's coming down in columns. And so one, we have to admit right off the top that this is incomplete text. So even if we were to transliterate and translate this, there's going to be context that's missing. And so that would have to be admitted. We have to understand that that's our handicap. We don't have the full text to whatever, but we can get something out of all this stuff, you know.
Okay. So just to interject real quick, obviously, so you're not familiar with this one, would y'all, or anyone?
With this here?
Yeah, with the Medew Netcher on this scene.
Yeah, but I'm saying we're gonna we can go over it in our next session. We're gonna go over it. I'm gonna use
Okay.
it we can use this as a freestyle session.
Okay.
So everybody sees it ahead of time or whatever the case is, and we can go over this. We could break down what the glyphs are and what's going on. But and see, that's why I said what I said before. There's missing text here that's going to give you more of the context. But just even with what's said here, that one, you have to show to make claims, you have to show where in the text that you're, you know, supporting your claim.
Okay.
You know, and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right. So, but I can say I'll say this, that this is from the tomb of Horemheb, and Horemheb, before he became king, he served under King Tut, Akhenaten, and he was a general, and so he had a lot of battles and everything. And you have to remember that just like a court battle today, we do this to this very day. And I know I mentioned this before, that even in civil court, when you file a lawsuit against somebody else or whatever case is, usually part of the person who wins, especially if you're a defendant, it's more prominent if you're a defendant. The person who initiated the suit will have to forfeit and pay the court costs, sometimes attorney fees, and so on and so forth. So when you engage in court battle, the loser has to pay or forfeit. So likewise, in ancient times and in war in general, when you declare war on somebody else, if you lose, it is a known thing throughout history that you got to pay up. And some people paid up by looting the loser, human labor, and all this other kind of stuff. And so this is no different. This went in many cultures all around the world. Even today, even recent times, World War II, Germany lost. World War II, what did they do? They looted. Germany had to pay up. Germany's still paying, I believe, for a few things or whatever the case is. You know, matter of fact, the United Nations gave the victims of certain things a whole country called Israel, the state of Israel, 1947, 1948, or whatever. But anyway, my point though is that people who were captured after losing a war, it was common practice for them to serve. And so these people were called Sakir Unk, people who were smitten alive. And they did serve. So it was a form, we can call it a form of slavery. But to argue the details, whether it's always chattel slavery, debt slavery, and all this other kind of stuff, it's like, okay, for what?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So what you're seeing here in the scene, you know, I'm probably giving away too much. But what you're seeing in the scene is a logging and counting of the captives after a conflict. And notice that the context is conflict, war, battle. And so Horemheb is in here. He's actually not on this piece, but Horemheb is here where they're counting the people who were smitten but alive. All right, so
Okay.
you see the scribe writing and so on and so forth. And
Right.
you notice that they're not bound. They don't have any rope around their neck.
Exactly. That was one of the first things I seen.
Right. They don't
Yeah.
have any rope around their neck. They don't have any their hands are not behind their back. They're in front and they're sitting there. But the people have definitely have sticks in their hands.
Indeed.
All right. So we'll walk through this and let everybody know that how, you know, what this is saying, how they were made to come down and be counted and all this and that. All right.
Okay.
So we'll get into particulars on that.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna see myself out.
All right, no problem.
All right. Blessings.
I appreciate it.
Bye bye.
I don't anybody else come in? Man, why is it that man, we can't even get people to come in? But all right, so anybody else on the panel got anything to say? We got Chris, we got Emicat, June, Kadeem, Lisa, Mika. I didn't even see Mika. Mika done snuck in here. When did Mika come? Mika's probably on third shift. She done snuck in here. All right, any questions in the chat? Anything nope.
There was some questions. We might have to scroll back up.
Yeah, I don't think I could scroll but so far.
Good job.
Yep.
Yeah, this good in. I ain't really gonna say nothing at first because I ain't really say nothing. Y'all been on for about an hour. I really had much to say. I pretty much said everything.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
the only question I really have is like, based on this like bad characters. It's like arguments. I wanted to like what? Cause I know like y'all can't really dodge. I mean, y'all can't like evade arguments or whatever, and like debating topics and stuff. But it's like what constitute as a good and bad? What's a good and bad argument? Because I know there's.
I'm sorry, you were low.
Give an
Say it again.
example. Could you give an example of like a bad argument and a good argument? 'Cause, you know, I guess because
Okay, that's
arguments, so you can't really just avoid that.
okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I'll start with the fact that arguments are not inherently bad at all, but when you hear somebody mention argument, people tend to think negative, like argument is a bad thing, like nobody should argue. But actually, an argument is not bad. It's actually a good thing. Debating is not bad. It's actually a good thing. To debate literally or should be understood to mean that what you're doing is you're hammering out an issue to the point of exposing it enough to where you can get to the bottom of it. You're trying to solve a problem. That's what a debate is, because the word debate literally means to beat down. All right, to beat down something, to hammer something. And an argument is nothing negative. And so an example of I'll give you the other way. I'll give you an example of bad arguments. Bad arguments are arguments that violate logical fallacies. That's the easiest and simplest way I could put it. So for example,
Okay.
if you make a statement and you make a claim, and I hear you make your statement, I hear you make your claim, then what I do is I take your claim and I misconstrue it. I mischaracterize your statement. I misconstrue your statement and everything. And then I argue against what I mischaracterized instead of arguing against your actual statement. So I take your statement, create a new one from it, and then I argue against the new one. That's a classic case of a straw man logical fallacy. And that's a bad way to argue. That's a bad argument because you're arguing a ghost claim. We call that a ghost claim. You just pull that out of thin air.
They objectifying something else.
Right. And that only gets worse. That only gets ugly because what ends up happening most of the time is that the person who's arguing the claim you never made, they actually misconstrue your claim. You may be in the middle of trying to tell them that, but that's when the ego flares up and the adversarial aspect comes into play, and they don't hear what you're saying, and they go on and on and on and on, and then the whole lesson is lost. The whole point is lost. And that's what goes on a lot of times. People violate many logical fallacies. Straw man is probably the biggest one. Straw man logical fallacy. You got people who appeal to authority instead of deferring to authority. We all defer to authority, but we should not appeal to authority. And that's a difference. People may not see it because all I switched was the word appeal to defer. But if you look into it, people will understand it makes sense. Because if I'm not an expert in the field and somebody has more expertise, more time in the field or whatever, I have to defer to them because we don't know everything. So we defer to authorities all the time. But appeal to authority fallacy is when you use an authority for the sake of them being authority, therefore your argument is correct. That's the logical fallacy.
Yeah, they're just using them as a reference point.
Exactly.
They're using them as whatever they say is whatever they say is correct, other than just using them as reference. Right.
Yep. So yeah, like I said, we defer to authorities, but you can't appeal to them. Like in the shortest way I could say it is that people say, okay, I'm right because so-and-so said it. That's a logical fallacy. That's not, a lot of people do that. And then there's subtleties with that because what happens is at least in this community, online community, what people do, they commit that logical fallacy, that appeal to authority, but it's real slick though. What they say is source up. Like that's the new thing. Source up, show your sources. And so people feel that just because they show a source, that they're correct. And that's not the case.
Yes,
When you show a source, all you did was show a source of somebody agreeing with you. Because see, 9 people could be wrong out of 10, and 1 person could be right. And so in science, when you apply rigor to it, you always have to demonstrate support for your claim. And that's where, the rubber meets the road in
yeah, they
scholarship.
didn't validate they didn't validate the source in the first place. It's like it's just they use whatever they could the conclusion is that's their
Yeah. Well,
but they
but
didn't
that's
like compare other sources.
yeah, and see that's the thing. When you're see when you're researching something, one of the first steps of the research process is the process called literature review. So one of the first things you need to do is review all of the literature that is surrounding your topic or issue. So what you do is you seek out all the scholarship on that topic, review it, and then explain it back. And then you go from there and show what you agree with and what you disagree with, and then what you can add to the whole thing in order to add clarity. Because here's the thing. Let's say you don't know much about a subject, and so you have to defer to authorities, experts. And so you pick up one book, expert A says this. Then you pick up another book and expert B says something that is the opposite of the first expert. What are you going to do? Like, you're in a position of confusion now. You don't know what to do because you got one scholar saying the opposite of the other, but they're both scholars and you're not. And so when you get in that situation, that's when you have to bite down and dig in and actually do the work yourself. But here's the thing. A lot of people don't have time to do that, either because they're lazy or they just literally don't have the time. They got other things to do that prevent them from doing it. So at the end of the day, most people don't do that. And if that's the case, then you can't argue from that position, because that's another fallacy, arguing from ignorance. Just because you found one scholar to agree with something that you're assuming, don't mean that it's right. You got to reconcile all of the scholarship by doing literature review and explaining things. And that's what we did, for example, with the toponym, the place name Kemet. If you look at our presentations on the place name Kemet, we discussed the scholarship period. We discussed 2 hypotheses that are out there. It's only 2 of what the place name could mean. And we discussed both. Then we reconciled and explained them and added to that body of knowledge. That's it.
You talking about the Shamsu Haru research team?
Yep, Shamsu Heru research team. It's me, Sanjeti, and Osar Imhotep. And we publish a preliminary article so that people can get caught up on the issues and then follow the discussion.
Somebody's showing the book. Oh, that was kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I'll show. I got the book.
Oh, you had it? Oh, I don't know if it showed on the screen. Yeah. So yeah. And we go through, the different points and stuff like that, and show how Kemet does not mean the land of blacks, of black skinned people and all the other kind of stuff. Listen, earlier I just said some very basic stuff, man. And for the life of me, I can't understand how people don't get it. That a place name at all times always refer to places. It never refers to people. That's why it's called a place name. So something is going on where people are tricked into believing the name of a place is the name of people. And to me, I don't understand how that's happening. I mean, I understand why it's going on, but why it's lasting this long, man, that's crazy. People gotta, and I went over this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the difference between toponym, ethnonyms, demonyms, and the different type of ethnonyms, whether they're exonymic or endonymic. The fact that demonyms are a combination between toponyms and ethnonyms, the whole nine. I even show how it's formed in the Egyptian language, how we do it in English, everything. And yet you got people 3 years later still arguing over that. And what'd you say, Mikhail? What was the new word?
Kememiu.
And that word, Kememiu, is found in a text in Demotic. It's a late Egyptian text that's written in Demotic.
But who said that it means riparian land? Like, really? Like, people are creating their own boogeyman now to just have an argument.
What, that word means riparian land?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what is being said, that this word does not mean riparian land. Like, who said that?
Yeah, Kememiu. Yeah, I don't know who said Kememiu means riparian land. I know that Kemet is the riparian country, the riparian land. Kememiu, Kemetiu. Kemetiu is a relational adjective, aka Nisbe adjective, aka it's a demonym. It's just that simple. And if you see the Newt symbol or the 049 glyph that's indicative of a place, those are found in many demonyms all over the place. Why? Because demonyms is a combination of a place name and a name for the people. It connects people to a place. And in English, we use IAN often for that's a demonymic suffix. So California is the place, and people related to that place are called Californians. Canada is a place. The people related to that place are called Canadians. Canadian being the demonym, Canada being the toponym. Very, very, very basic stuff. Kemet is the place. Kemetiu would be the demonym. Those of Kemet. Like Canadian means those of Canada. Kemetiu, those of Kemet. And sometimes in English, we put the "ite" on there. Something that belongs to something. So we may say Memphite. That means a person who is from Memphis. I mean, this is very, very basic things. Very, very basic. And that's the kind of thing you don't even have to know anything about the language to understand. You know?
Yeah, I probably need to link the videos that we did, because I think we did some really good videos that anybody could have followed along. It's like not something that you have to really understand the language, but just the logic. Because most of the things, like even when you're doing a research, when you decide that you want to pursue something, even before you start to write a proposal or do anything, there's some basic things that you ask yourself to make sure that whatever it is you're trying to pursue, is it worth it? And this is where logic comes in. So you have to just ask basic logical questions to yourself. And then either you realize that yes, this is something worth pursuing, or no, this is not something worth pursuing. And in this case, it was very clear that it, just from the basic logic, it shouldn't even have been an argument. And it wasn't even an argument because you guys were coming up with something new, just new research work that hadn't been done, some groundwork, groundbreaking research. And then instead of people even waiting just to hear, like, what do you guys have? What did you find out about this? Because nobody has done it before. People just lined up ready to argue. People were arguing even before the book was released. People were arguing even before you laid your points down. And then as the points came, the arguments continued with goalpost, whole stadiums being moved to a point where it became like spell checks, like in the book itself. So can we trash this research because there was a spelling error or things like that, where it just became really ridiculous. And these are the things that we're talking about, like bad character. Like people, like a group of people decide to do groundbreaking work and nobody wants to listen. I mean, not nobody, like some people decide we're not even going to hear it. We just have to be combative and we have to be the other side, and that's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, to kind of bring this full circle and end it out is bad character is an impediment to learning. And I can go on and on and on and give many examples, real examples, on Facebook, on YouTube. I could take some clips. I can take screenshots of comments and posts and stuff like that. But I think people experience it enough and see it that I'm not the only one who sees the elephant in the room. And we just got to do better, period. If we want to excel on the world stage in any area, of scholarship, science, and all that kind of stuff, we just got to do better. We can't be adversarial. We can't start off the conversation as enemies. Who does that? You can't do that. You got to come to the table. And let me just lay out a couple of rules, right? I'm gonna pass these on. Now, I say this all the time, but I'm gonna pass it on to everybody who's listening right now. In dialogue engagement, whether it elevates to debating or arguing, that's fine. But this is what you should never do. One, try your best to avoid committing logical fallacies. Okay. So that means you have to study them to know how to avoid them. Okay. That's number one. Don't commit logical fallacies. Do your best to stay away from it and to be able to recognize when somebody else is committing one. So do that. Two, never acquiesce to a faulty premise, because if you acquiesce to a faulty premise, you will be led to a faulty conclusion. Okay. So when people lay out their premise or when you lay out yours, that's where the majority of the work and time is spent, at the beginning. But what people do, they microwave it. They skip the beginning. They have a little blip of the beginning. Then they fast forward through all the meat and potatoes and want to get to the conclusion of conversations. And you can't do that because it's all about trajectory. If you're trying to hit a bullseye and you have a straight line laser that's gonna go in the absolute straightest of lines in the direction you point it to, then from the source of the laser, if you angle it 1 degree up, you can actually miss your target depending on how far away your target is. And I demonstrated this many times. And in argument theory and in engagement and stuff like this, it's all about making sure that the original premise is on point. And so again, the rule is, the recommendation, never acquiesce to a faulty premise, because you will be led to a faulty conclusion if you do so. That's 2. 3, never debate or argue with somebody who has their mind made up. Don't do it. Why? Because they're not going to hear anything you say. if they are respectful, all they're going to do is be quiet while you talk and then wait their turn to talk, but they're not listening to you. They're just kindly waiting till you shut up, and then they're just going to go on with their thing. You can never debate a person who has their mind made up. Why? Because that is actually not a debate. A true debate is between two people that are open-minded. So remember, I'm saying that. A true debate is with two or more people that have open minds. Because if one party has a closed mind, that is not a debate. You might as well talk to a doorknob or a wall. Okay, so those are three things I'm just gonna say for tonight as far as that goes. But yeah, bad character is at an all-time high. We gotta do something about it. And I would like to count on the elders of our communities to speak up, but they're not. Some of them are, so I don't, when I say stuff like that, I don't mean every single elder or every single person, because you got people who take words literally, like that. But I'm saying the preponderance of elders speaking up is not there. The elders are too quiet, or they're enabling. They're enablers, and that's just not a good look. Can't happen. And there's a disconnect between the younger generations and the elders. There's a disconnect. I've seen elders get disrespected, and you don't need to disrespect anybody. You can have a conversation. You don't have to agree. See, disagreeing does not equate to fighting or disrespect and losing friendships over and all that kind of stuff. You disagree. And most disagreements should be temporary. See, disagreements in actual scholarship and actual science, a disagreement is really a pause button. Think about that. When real scientists get together to hash out the evidence, because science is evidence-based, when real scientists get together to present evidence and hash out the evidence, if they come across bumping heads and have a disagreement, it is simply a pause button. They regroup, collect some more evidence, or fine-tune the evidence they have, and then they reconvene and they lift the pause button off. That's it. But in our communities, man, a disagreement ends up off and on friendships, and all kinds of stuff, cursing each other out, cutting each other off, can't even talk, and doing all kinds of stuff. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. So, yeah, man, it's rough. It's rough. I've never seen it in my whole school career. I don't know. Like my head was in science and math, right? And even in debating, I went to University of Maryland, College Park, and I was on a debating team, high school and in college. And we were taught these things. And these are valuable things, because I'm telling you, back then, man, I didn't know how valuable the things that I was learning was going to be. Even something as simple as playing chess. I recommend everybody should learn how to play chess. Playing the game of chess is a very, very, very valuable tool. Very valuable. It teaches you patience. It teaches you awareness. It keeps you humble, especially if you play yourself. It keeps you more objective. You got to think ahead. You got to speculate. You got to be on the verge of that speculation versus, surety and confidence. It's a whole bunch of things wrapped up in the game of chess. You got to think fast, especially if you played speed chess. you know, some people play chess, don't play speed chess. Some people play one game of chess and it will last months. They'll make a move and then they'll wait for them to, you know, family reunions, they'll make a move and the next family reunion make another move. I got friends who play chess, you know, take a month to play chess. You know, anyway. But I used to play chess every day. Like right now, I'll probably get my butt kicked in chess right now. But back when I played it, man, nah, I got to the point where I was really good, you know. But anyway, anybody got something else? Because I'm just rambling on now. Kimmit as a top in them. Oh, okay. And we can't put the so no questions in the chat. Nope. All right. So listen, this is a wrap. Hope everybody, you know, appreciate anybody watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. If you got here seeing a link somewhere, make sure you subscribe, you know. And if you're interested, and you know, I always say this at the end of the video, and I don't know if too many people to get to the end of these videos. I need to start saying this at the beginning. But listen, if you're interested in learning the language of Kemet, which is Rani Kemet, and the writing system, which is Sesh Netcher, there are links inside the video description that will take you straight to our educational website, which is sableuniversity.com. And you'll see some free short lessons. You'll see some the beginner's introduction to Egyptian hieroglyphic, aka Sesh Netcher, or I should say that the other way around. You'll see some other lessons that are completely free. One about evolution, one about the hieratic jar, wine jars. What was the other one? You have your recent one, Amy Kit.
Yes, there's another one on logical reasoning.
Logical reasoning. That's important. So anyway, we have that. We have seshmetametric.com, which is more of a resource website. So all these translations that we do, we fine tune them, and we're gonna upload. Then notice I said going to, because we haven't done it yet, but we're gonna upload these Freestyle Friday translations once we iron it all out, because we freestyle live, but then we'll come back and make sure we comb through it properly and post it on the website. So we have seshmetametric.com. And then we have publications, the books between myself, the team as a whole, and even others as well. Links to all that, all in the description. And our Facebook group. Yes, indeed, our Facebook group. All right, so I'm surprised nothing else going on. Let me see. Let me look. Boom said never debate or argue with Chief X. You know what? Let me say something about Chief X, man. I met Chief X. Chief X is like as a now I only met him once. Okay, so I'm not gonna try to speak as if I know Chief X like that. But Chief X seems like the person, you know, he's cool, right? He's definitely the person that to me would be like the life of the party. He shoots it straight. He says what's on his mind, you know, and all that good stuff. But now, he is rough around the edges. And even Chief X, if you're watching, you can click the link, and I will say this right here while you in here, that Chief X is cool and all that, but he's rough around the edges when he argues. Because Chief X, boy, and you know, when he was on here last time, I was imitating him, because Chief X will go from 0 to 10 in a half a second. He'll be calm, puffing on his cigar, then all of a sudden he's screaming, standing up, pushing the chair back right up in the camera. Chief X is crazy. But man, a person like Chief X though, if Chief X were to slow the conversation down, and that's another thing about chess. Chess teaches you pace, because the chess game is about pacing the game too. You know, if anybody plays chess, you know what I'm talking about. But if you slow the conversation down, a lot of stuff that is said, either wouldn't be said or be said better, you know. But the thing that I've seen Chief X talk about, like Chief X issue is with the romanticizing of Egypt and people blackenizing everything. And there's some valid points with that because there is romanticizing going on. There is blackenizing going on. But there's a way to discuss it and stuff. And so I think, Chief X and people that are trying to bring that up, man, you got to do better. Got to do better with bringing up those arguments and having a conversation about them. So yeah. And go to the source of the claims. That's another thing I see. People will make a big deal out of one person's claim as if it's the claim, and instead of mentioning the name and just dealing with the person attached to the claim, just deal with that. Like there's people who think that no slavery existed in Egypt at all, ever. And then people will make a counterclaim to that and argue and make it a big deal. And then, they may ask me about it because they know, I deal with Kim and stuff. And then I'm like, real quick, like 1 second. Yeah, Kim had slavery. Next. It's like done. It's over with.
Chief X will just screenshot you to death with Wikipedia, and just argue. Like, I had an argument with Chief X where he was trying to say that Kenyans were enslaved by Ethiopians because certain groups in Kenya and certain groups in Ethiopia are from the same language family. And he would screenshot me to that with things that just does not agree with him. So he goes crazy with that whole screenshot. Like y'all, like what you saw here today, Chief X has trademarked that part.
Mm. Yeah, but see, I'm a little optimistic about all that, man. I just want to see all of us do better, and there may be a little bit of hope. But man, I get in my pessimistic moments where I think that it's just a wrap. Might as well just throw in the towel and go to Disney World. Especially with the rehashing of old arguments and stuff. Like I can't believe people are arguing over the stuff they're arguing right now. you know um but you gotta know how to argue. You gotta know how to label stuff, categorize stuff. People want to argue genetics and then mix it up with ethnicity, then mix it up with nationality, then mix it up with social constructs and stuff, thinking they're all the same. And it's not. It just confuses the issues. You can't. Now it's back to whether the Egyptians were black or white. I'm like, man, like, let's say that they're white. Now what? And then deal with that. Then, okay, now let's say that they're black. Now what? It's like, okay, like what? Why can't they just be what they were? Why we got to make them one or the other? I mean, anybody who really, really studies will know that Kemet became a kingdom, right? Full stop, a kingdom that was in a region, a territory of geography, Northeast Africa, from the Mediterranean all the way down to the first cataract, for the most part, and to the east and west, all the way to the Red Sea, and then that's on the east, and then on the west, as far as the Libya, and today that would be Libya still and Sudan, and then the Mediterranean and Red Sea breaks it up on those two boundaries. But the point is that Nile River, a lot of different people converged on the Nile and built up to what later became Kemet, a unified people. So there's going to be differences there. And at the very, very least, I'm going to tell y'all this. At the very, very least, you don't have to know anything from anything. You don't have to dig deep if you don't have time. None of that. Walk away knowing this. At all times from its unification, forget when it was. People may say 50,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, 10 or even 3,100 years ago, or BCE, I should say. Regardless of when, but from all times of its unification until its demise, Kemet was always seen as at least two regions unified as one. Two unified. That's why it was called Tawi. The word Ta is region or land, depending on the context. Some people translate it as earth and all that good stuff, but it's a region. There was a lower elevated region and a upper elevated region. We refer to it as upper Kemet, lower Kemet. But the upper and lower deals with elevation, not direction. Elevation. Lower Kemet was at sea level. It emptied into the Mediterranean Sea. Upper Kemet was higher elevation, going towards mountains. Okay, the source of the Nile. Now Egypt didn't extend to the source of the Nile, but it's in that direction. The point is at the very least, everything you look at Kemet, from its people to linguistics, its languages and stuff like that, at the very least, you'll always find two. Two, at the very least. Okay. Tamehu, Tashamahu. That's what you'll see. And scholars are recognizing at least two. Now, some of them, you could recognize more than two, but I'm saying that's at the very least. You're not going to find a homogeneous anything in Kemet. Only at the level of the unification. If you go anywhere below the level of unification, you can always find two or more. That dual nature. Idebwi, the two banks of the Nile, that's the left and right. Tashamau, Tamehu, upper and lower. Tameri, Taseti. Kemet, Deshret. You see that? Kemet versus Deshret, Tameri versus Taseti, Tashamau versus Tamehu. Idebwi, you have Iabet and Amenet, the left and right. You have Mehu, the feet, Resi, the head. Peti, the back, bottom. Kint, which is the forehead, the front. I hope y'all understand that. I can go on. But at the very least, you're going to find this duality going on, and with the people. And then you got a hierarchy of people. You got the Rakit, social classification of people. You have the Sakets, which are they translate it as farmers. Peasants, but it's really people who work in the fields and farms and stuff like that. You have the Eripat, which are the elite. Today we call them the bougie folks. That's bougie. And then all the way down. So they had a social hierarchy. But their unified name that they call themselves was Rimich, and that comes from a cosmological background, being from the tears of Ra, because the word for crying or the tears themselves is the word remit, and remi. And from that, you have remech. And so you see a play with that word, you see a punning there, where remech means the people, and then there's a play where there's this umbilical cord connected to the cosmological consciousness that they had of being from the sun, the tears of Ra, the sun. Not the sun itself, but Ra, the deity of the sun. All right, so anyway, I'm just rambling on now. Deseret was a black land. The share is red, Kim is black. And so where the confusion comes in, the share is red and Kim is black. But because Kim means black, then Kemet must mean the land of blacks. Scholars say, okay, it is black, but it's pointing to the earth, the land, the soil. Then you got another group, nah, it's pointing to the skin. And we like, yeah, both wrong. At the heart of both of those, Desher or Desheret and Kemet is the dichotomy between dryness and wetness. All right, dryness and wetness, which connects to lighter and darker though. Because think about it, and I say this all the time. If you are wearing a shirt right now, no matter what color shirt you got on, even if the shirt is white, put some water on it. I guarantee you it will become darker than it was when it was dry. And do the opposite. If you have something wet, look how dark it is, and then dry it. Look how light it'll get. So the range of brightness and darkness, or lightness and darkness, that range or movement comes as a result of moisture or the lack thereof. Desher or desheret is dryness. We say it's the desert. Why? Because the desert is dry. It's arid. Kemet is wet. It's accessible to water. People can live in Kemet, but you can't live very well in Desheret. So the entire population lived close to the bank. You have Idebwi. They lived in what zone? Somebody on the panel. What zone? What do we call where people were inhabited, where most of the population inhabited? What do we call that zone?
Riparian zone.
I'll give you, say it again.
The riparian zone.
Exactly. The riparian zone. These are zones that have access to water. All right, but anyway, I'm gonna say Shem Hotep, boy, because I'm just gonna keep running my mouth, and it's 1 a.m.
Well, before you do, let me make a disclaimer real quick. If you're watching this and you want to get into an argument with me, on Facebook is Maureen, I'm Emiken over here. Please just know that normally I focus on one thing, and I just focus on the language, all right? Sesh, Medew, Netcher, and ancient Egyptian culture. So don't be trying to put me into no arguments about cooking, about some other place, I don't know where, like I focus on, I stay focused. I'm not trying to do a lot of things like people think, or like most people like to do out there. So just making that disclaimer, like, and if you want to ask me something, just ask, don't tag me and then try to debate me, because you've never seen me debate anywhere, so I don't do that. I just be sitting and learning and then sharing my information. That's it. Just making that disclaimer.
Okay, yeah, I see Boom had a question. He said, if ancient Egypt had towns and cities and people lived in them, I would like to know if those towns and cities had sewer systems and what kind of system. And it's a legit question. Yeah, that's a good question. But man, this is the end of our session. But just on a quick thing, yes, they did definitely have towns and more densely populated areas that we would call, towns or whatever. Not cities in the sense of high rises or nothing like that, but more densely populated areas. And the densely populated areas were closer to water and closer to work, that they would ever, whoever would be doing. And in terms of a sewer, see, we have, like today, we have like a central sewage where, you build in residential areas or in commercial areas or industrial zoned areas today, you just tap into the sewer line and it's very well hidden underground and, you know, all this and that, the piping and stuff. Well, in these ancient places and stuff, they weren't as elaborate and had underground piping and this and that. So they had a way to discard waste. It's just not like how we do it today in that form. So you can imagine, like for example, the Nile River itself. I mean, you can imagine people bathe um in there and did all kinds of things in the Nile. So, you know, you going down to the Nile to get a little drink of water, you know, you may have to you had to think twice, boy. You had to boil that water a bit, you know. Um, but they had ways of discarding waste. It's just not what something that we're more familiar with today. So that's just a quick little response to that. But you know, maybe that could be a topic, you know, on a Wednesday. We can go into sanitation, ancient Egyptian sanitation. You know what I mean? Ancient Egyptian sanitation. But I can say this real quick. In European communities, now check this out. And I want y'all to look into this. Don't believe, I don't like it when people believe me or nothing like that anyway. But check this out though. In European communities, there are a lot of European communities that believed that bathing was a bad thing. That using soap was a bad thing. And they actually felt that by not bathing and having clothes on and stuff like that, that was a good thing, that the body was supposed to do certain things on its own. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that, but there's some documentaries, you know, that show and discuss that. And I know in grade school when we learned, because you know I'm from Washington D.C. and so in my schools we took a trip to Annapolis, Maryland. And Annapolis, Maryland, if y'all don't know U.S. history, that was one of the major cities in Maryland in the colonial times, the 13 colonies. Annapolis was the wait a minute, I think Annapolis still is the capital of Maryland. Dang, I don't know. But anyway, Annapolis, Maryland. And so Annapolis has this large historic area, historical Maryland. And I remember going on tour and they were explaining to us how the early colonists would not bathe. And so when they walk the streets and meet with each other and talk with each other, they used to have this sponge or something in their hand full of perfume that they used to talk with it next to their face because they didn't want to smell the stench from each other, either their breath or body odor or whatever. You know, they walked around with a perfume bag they used to hold up to their nose as they spoke to each other and stuff like that. So anyway, there was a actual belief that, you know, bathing was a bad thing with soap and stuff. So anyway, check that out. But
And with that, I just
but
got one. I just one simple question, like just a yes and no question. Did uh did the Romans and Greeks like introduce themselves to the Egyptians as white people?
nah, not like no. See the modern no. The short answer is no, because the modern social
Okay.
constructs did not exist back then.
All right.
And and
So
and and you know, nobody's literally white though. Like I don't know if people realize that. And also check this out. Check this out. The word black and white has the same origin. Don't believe that. Check the etymology of the word white and check the etymology of the word black, and you're gonna see that they come out of the same thing. And I say this all the time. I said it years ago when I used to argue with Moors on the term black and the word Moor. The word black and the word white, they're from the same origin, but they're talking about two different aspects of one process. And I'm gonna tell you what that is. White is bright. It means it comes from the word blanc or bleach. the white, the light, bright part. The black is the dark, salty, right? But those two words are the results of a single observation. So check this out. When you light something on fire, fire is the common denominator. When you light something on fire, when you burn something, you first have to ignite it, and then it lights up, it combusts, and then there's flames, and it glows. It's very bright, whatever that substance is, for the most part. Then as it burns, as the oxygen feeds the flames and stuff like that, and the substance that's on fire burns itself and consumes itself, it turns dark. So black is the beginning of combustion, or the combusting process. White is the beginning and black is the end. And so from those two things comes the semantic trajectory of those words. That's why black is also equal, in semantically equal to finishing, complete, being black. You're done. All that kind of stuff. And so that semantics exist in different cultures, where the word for black will double also for the word for completion and stuff like that. So look in Kemet. You have a word Kim that means black, as in the color. You have a word Kim that means a total or to complete. Same thing there. So it's just very, very interesting. The blackness in the funerary ritual aspect, and then the whiteness. You got people who wear white. You got women who dress in white, put powder on their skin to make it white in the funerary aspect. Then you have the opposite. You have the blackness being a sacred color in that process as well. So it's very, very interesting. But anyway, see, I done went off on a tangent, but the answer is no. As far as Romans and Greeks, no, the words for them in the Egyptian language doesn't even reflect white. Matter of fact, the Egyptians have a land called White Land. So the
Wait a
people
minute. Okay,
people there
keep
are white.
it.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's crazy. Anyway, but listen, I'm definitely out. Anybody got any closing words?
Shem Hotep.
Oh, Shimon Hotep, Lisa. All right.
Uh-uh. Just got off work. Gotta take this nap.
All right, everybody sound tired, boys. Friday, it's 1:11 a.m. We got the triple ones. People be using that 11:11, 1:11, 4:44, 4:44. What's another one people use? 5:55,
Yeah.
3:33, 2:22, 12:12. Well, it's 12:12, and because the moon is in conjunction with the earth in the right formation of Arcturus, in conjunction with Orion's belt,
Um, numerology, a whole nother topic.
the barometric pressure of the earth at the altitude of 5 feet, in conjunction with the rotation of the earth on its axis and its revolution around the earth, of the sun, rather. Now I'm gonna start sounding like Oswald on In Living Color.
What are you supposed to do in those moments?
Huh?
Like when you say like the 111, 555, 444.
No, I mean people. I see people post stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen them post about. I'm always wondering like what happens during that time.
I don't know. Maybe there's something happens. I don't know. I have no idea. I see people post it, and then some people live by that stuff. 11:11. But all right. Let me tell you something about that though. Like I don't know what those people are talking about, but let me tell you what that phenomenon involves. Is that you have moments of awareness, and so like I'll give you an example. that a lot of people experience. Have you ever like just imagine the things that you're totally oblivious to, like you have no idea about, like you go out, you go throughout your day, you're totally oblivious to something. Then the moment that you take interest in it, so let's say you want to buy, I'll use a car because a car is the biggest thing. Let's say you drive, either you drive or you drive as a passenger every day, and you don't pay attention to it, nothing for nothing. But the moment that you got your eyes set on buying a car, let's say you want a certain type of Toyota, a Camry, Toyota Camry. All of a sudden, if you get that Camry or what have you, then all of a sudden you're gonna see a whole bunch of Toyota Camrys around. Everywhere you go, you're gonna see a Toyota Camry. And so, and I'm just using it as a little quick example, but psychologists, there's a term for that, and I don't know what that term is, but by heart, but there's a term for that, and it has to do with your scope of awareness and the seat of your consciousness to what you pay attention to, you know. And so I say that to say that when people notice the clock being at 11:11, 4:44, 5:55 and stuff, because the clock every day it hits those numbers. But when people have that focus on it to notice it, that's what's occurring. And that's a natural phenomenon. And I forget what it's called and stuff like that, but y'all can look into it. But we take it as a big deal, you know, almost similar to the experience that we call deja vu and stuff like that, where we'll focus on something, see something, and then we'll make something out of it. But you know what people actually mean by that, I don't know. I'm not even going to attempt to explain what they do. They have to explain it themselves. But I can just tell you at least, you know, the phenomenon why people become aware of that, and it's a big deal. So, Mercury retrograde.
So if you acquire like $50 or whatever, and then you start seeing $50 everywhere. Just
Listen, that's what I'm saying. See, you're too scientific right there, because you putting it to a test. You mean to tell me that if I focus on something, I'm gonna all of a sudden see it? So if I focus on $100 on the ground, I'm gonna see a whole bunch of $100 on the ground. You know, there's a term for it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna bring it back up. I'm gonna bring this back up. I'm gonna bring this back up. I wish it did work like that though. But no. So Emicat, to tell you about that, the reason why that's different is because this has to involve things that are already happening. So like I said, so you got to take the clue. The clock, there will always be an 11:11 on the clock. At one point in every day, or 2 points, at 2 times a day, 11:11 will be there. There's no getting around that. 2 times a day, there's going to be a 5:55, you know, a 12:12, and so on, you know. So these are things that are happening anyway. And so you becoming conscious of it, that's what I'm talking about. That's the phenomenon. But what you described, I mean, you know, the $100 stuff like that. See, that's
it's
not
repetitive, like happening.
right. That's exactly. That's not a consistent natural repetition that goes on to qualify for that, you know, that kind of phenomenon and stuff. So that's different. You know, and then even example with the cars I got, there are cars on the road because we live in an industrial society. People drive. There's going to be cars on the road, and there's only but so many makes and models of cars. So you're going to see a Mercedes. You're just going to see a Mercedes.
Okay, so that's good. That makes sense. So it's like a game, and it has rules. There's constrictions or limits. So, you know, like in this case, it has to be. So you're playing a game on a daily basis. Like, you know, I get it now.
Exactly. All right, so I'm gonna say Shimmy Hotep for real. These long goodbyes, boy, they really. All right. Oh, somebody said the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. I'm gonna have to look that up. If that's the name. Kadeem brought it up after he leave. All right, so Shem and Hotep, everybody. Listen, I appreciate everybody tuned in. Hopefully you had some takeaways. Share this, share the information. If you feel like we're in error about anything on any of our videos and whatnot, bring it to our attention. All that stuff is welcome. We love to have sit downs, chats, open discussions. Each one teach one, each one teach all that good stuff. All that stuff is good. Good character is good with us. Bad character is not so good with us. That's just it.